Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers, episode 107, apparently. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, is my co-host and long-standing colleague, Duncan Thorin Shields. Sam is pushing the buttons. He's lurking in the background. I haven't talked to these lads for a while, actually. I've been out on a bender. Been absolutely fucking shit-faced.
Which, by the way,
since we tried to flare a rocket,
if you are from the UK, that means something different.
Yeah, obvious. How do you know, Duncan, actually? How do you know what I get up to in my spare fucking time?
I will say this, though. People don't know this. So we obviously always used to make that joke of like, and I'm the recurring guest. Wasn't even on the last episode. And here's the thing, right? I like to support people in the industry. You know, I like to look after other commentators. So I started watching part of it. I woke up about 8 hours later. I had a fucking brilliant night's sleep. I'll tell you what. That Carmack and fucking Ulrich, they can bloody talk at fucking hell. Tell you what, mate, listen, I won't claim I can beat these guys.
Coming from you, isn't it?
I won't claim I can beat these guys in terms of like actual business knowledge, maybe even certain areas of the industry they might know more than me. But I tell you one thing, mate, this is one thing you have to give me credit for. You know from what the old school was like, right? The edge that Carmack always had on me in our careers is that he was the charismatic one. He was the guy who was great on camera. He was the interesting one to listen to, who had all the cooler ideas. Fucking hell, the tables have turned now, haven't they? Mate, I'll murk any of these guys when it comes to actually being interesting while making my points. These guys were boring me to sleep. Fucking hell.
But you know, it was good of them to come on and sort of kind of, you know, face the music. I don't know. By
the way, fair play that they even did come on. I'll give them credit on that. You don't have to, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one for me. I don't know how satisfying a lot of the answers were, but then again,
they were probably shackled. Let's be real. I don't think they probably
exactly.
I don't blame them.
I mean, look, I'll do the sponsor plug. We'll get into it, right? So obviously the show's sponsored by .com. You can go to .com/RLS, and if you sign up, they'll match up to $100 deposited for the purposes of placing bets on their site. It's a safe, ethical environment where you can go and place esports bets, fully licensed. They're a great company. They've been really supportive, you know, of me during this like tough time. They've let me off the hook for sort of content for February. We got some cool stuff lined up. They got a YouTube channel, got a CS on YouTube, and I do interviews and stuff there. I got 2 big ones coming in March, maybe even more. So support them because they support us. But yeah, look, let's get into it because, you know, I there was a term during the Gulf War that was being used a lot. Word fatigue. Word fatigue. Right. I don't know if you ever heard of this.
Heard that one, no.
Yeah, so word fatigue. It's basically when, you know, you get kind of like you overuse political terms, you overuse terms in the media to a point where they essentially cease to kind of resonate with people because it's just the same shit over and over again. And I kind of feel like with the Flashpoint and the ESL kind of war that's been going on, I kind of feel the community is getting to that stage anyway, because what we've essentially got is we've got a league that went out and got teams but is going to suffer for broadcast product, and we've got something that I believe will be a straight fire broadcast product, especially if what we've seen with the Blast is kind of like a dry run. If Flashpoint's going to take to the next level, which I believe they will, but not the teams. And I don't even think any of this is predicated on viewership. I don't think there are winners or losers. The overall, I think, you know, what's kind of become a little bit fatiguing for me is that, you know, it's ESL. Like, I don't think you need to go in a PR war with ESL, and those that do generally tend to fuck it up for themselves. ESL are the best at making themselves look bad. You do not need to make them look bad at all. If you just sit back and watch, they'll fuck up, and journalists will expose their shit. And instead, what happens when you come out and you vocalize, look at all the bad shit they're doing, and you do it time and time and time and time again, people then will just turn to you and go, why don't you just shut the fuck up? Now, what you know and I know is that the esports community is terrible in the sense that they are as dumb as sports fans, by and large, but also younger. So they're more impulsive and reactionary.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So what's happening right now is, I think, basically the Flashpoint PR stuff, like putting you out there, putting Dan, you know, Dan's been out there. I think it's kind of it's inverted on where it was. It was being received as refreshing on day one, and now by day 30 or whatever it is, the community just like, shut up. They're just dropping a Nico on it, and it doesn't matter the substance of what you're saying anymore. So I think that's where we've got to, word fatigue.
One thing that I do think is a problem is if you are just a really casual fan and you're just someone incredibly fickle. By the way, I would have included myself. I mean, I was never a casual fan, but like I've certainly, you've probably heard when I've talked and characterized other tournaments back in the day. If you have the best teams, I'm going to watch that league, obviously. I don't really give a fuck if it's evil Riot Games running it. I'll probably still watch it. It's got the best teams. So I get why if you're the most casual fan, all you really think is, well, which league has the teams that I care about? I'll be watching that one. But the part that is puzzling to me is the people who the sentiment is like, here's the thing, as far as I can tell, the premise must be from fans that because Flashpoint is salty they didn't get the teams, they're now just literally lying about provable facts, like the breakdown of the economic elements, etc. Because as far as I can tell, that's the only way it would be like not a legit point to bring up. Because the same fans on Reddit and Twitter and everywhere else go mental if even a low-level pro is getting screwed out of a contract, hasn't been paid on time, literally his match gets reset in a qualifier. They'll cry like this is a war crime. But somehow, finding out that the majority of the top 20 teams in Counter-Strike are going to get way less revenue from the deal they've just signed not only isn't relevant, but you shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah,
that's a bizarre scenario to be in.
Yeah, but that's where you are. Like, so there's a lot going on here. Like, and I'll just speak to you candidly, because again, I consider you a dear friend, and we've known each other a long time. And because you're so fucking busy, and I'm a fucking drunk now, this is where we get to talk, right? So, I mean, first of all, I think I have a genuine concern that with Flashpoint kind of like recruiting you as a creative kind of director and sort of enabling you to speak out on these issues, I almost feel like you're getting used a little bit because, you're an iconoclastic figure, you're known for being vocal anyway. And what's happened is every time Flashpoint fuck up, like, for example, with the qualifiers, which we'll get to in a minute, people are in the Reddit threads about them saying, hey, this is Thorin's fault. Fuck Thorin. What's Thorin going to say about this? And it's like, operationally, you've got nothing to do with it, like, whatsoever. But the last 2 weeks on Reddit, man, it's like every thread that has to do with Flashpoint, people are talking about you. And I almost think, whether they tell you this or not, the people at Flashpoint, that's probably a little bit by design, frankly. I think that's what they were hoping for when they sort of...
I'm sure there was some element of like that dreaded term influencer. I'm sure that played a part in why I was recruited to the project. Sadly, I don't think it was just my straight fire ideas about how to run the tournament, how to keep the viewership broad. I'm sure there was an element of this is also someone who will basically like be our champion in the community element, etc. I've no doubt. Yeah, it's a cynical.
And what you've got to remember is, and I'm sure I would like to think you've thought this far ahead. I hope so. Is that, if Flashpoint isn't here in 2-3 years and it is sort of a failed venture and goes the same way as ECS does, then, you will have to sort of come back and face the community. And it's like, I feel like giving, you have to give a little bit away because you can never be viewed as kind of impartial now. This is like a real concern because, I said it to you. I'd love to come over and maybe do some work at Flashpoint, but I'll be clear. I also said to ESL, like, if in the gaps you are looking for somebody to host because all the hosts have gone over to Flashpoint or something, give me a call. If it's a US based event, I'll probably be there. I want to get back in the game. I've said that. But the reality is my fear about kind of signing on the dotted line with the company is the value, what you give away in terms of value for impartiality, I think, is like, I hope they're paying you well enough is what I'm going to say. And I hope you do have the creative control and the creative freedoms, because right now, everything that they've done wrong, it's all being put on your fucking doorstep. And I don't think that's fair. And I don't think it's reasonable.
Oh, it's obviously not fair, but that's just what idiots are going to do, isn't it? So I'm not that concerned about that aspect. I'll also just say, the whole point is, you're absolutely right. Anytime you work for any company, and by the way, I would even include the context you put in, even when you no longer work for them. By the way, crazy concept, everyone in the esports industry. Oh, you no longer work for Riot Games. guess what? Your opinion is tinted forever. That is a fact. Doesn't matter how hard you go against them afterwards, how much you say later you regret everything, your opinion is tinted forever because you were cool when you were working there. We're saying nothing, which is actually something I would just say to people who watch when I work at this company. Just watch and see, because I've already been consistent with it, and I will absolutely point out when there's things they do that I don't agree with or I think are actually wrong or they fucked up, etc. That's not something, but I will say that's irrelevant. You should always put a little asterisk in your mind and know that person did work for that company. You have to take that is context that is worth taking into consideration, whether it actually means they are biased. You have to at least I'd say it's sort of like almost like a margin of error. You have to account for the fact that there could be an element of bias, whether they actually it appears genuine or not. So that certainly is the case. But the point is, that's also why I picked the right time to get involved with a project like this, is because now I can get involved. And as you say, I actually have a level of control and input that makes it worth it. Like the gamble is worth it because they're actually going to do the things I want to do. The problem in the past is there's many times, and many people in esports have done it, where they basically did sell their brand to a company, which I haven't technically done, but in effect, that is what it will be seen as. Sell their brand to a company, could be a massive game dev, and then later on, not only do they get wrecked and their brand gets tainted, but even worse, they end it all by going, I didn't even get what I was promised. Like, I didn't get the input I wanted. It's like my joke that it's not even a joke. It's actually a serious comment, but I'm just presenting it as comedy now because it seems ridiculous, which is I've told many people in esports, publicly and privately, one day I will be a head coach in esports. It's just I'm only going to do it, and this is the part that sounds like a joke until you know where the industry's going. I'm only going to do that job and step into that field where, think about it, right? I'll be the most criticized coach of all time. I'll have to literally I'll be like Mourinho at his prime, where I'd have to win every time, otherwise I'm shit because of the outspoken, big mouth, obviously like polarizing figure. But here's the point. Because I know that's what will come with the terms, I'm only going to do it where, no joke, my salary is 7 figures a year. Once the coaching money is at that level where you can be the superstar coach, I guess, but I'll do it. I'll do it for a couple of years. Because the point is, win or lose at that point in time is worth the gamble. All the upside makes what you can potentially lose worth it at that point in time, you know. But I'm not going to do it now where you get paid like Smith's money and then get shit on completely. And at the end of it, you're like, so I just had sort of a good job, but not a mega one. It's like, it's got to be like football, where if we're going to get this level of abuse, you've got to get that sort of money as well, you know.
Saw a comment on Reddit as well, just on that point where somebody was saying, like somebody had said, listen, you can insult Thorin all you want. I think it was in the Nigel and Nihom thread stuff, which we'll come to later. But somebody said you can bang on Thorin all you want, but he's making money. And then somebody said, what, barely approaching 6 figures? I mean, first of all, barely approaching 6 figures does include like
this person's
80, 90 grand, which,
I know.
You know, not bad at all by any stretch. There's a lot of people would do a lot for that kind of money annually. But the idea that top tier talent aren't pulling in close to 200 grand, 250 grand a year just on freelancing alone, no, they just don't understand it. It's just like, for fuck's sake, like.
Put it this way, there are people, I would guess, this is a guess, I would guess there are tier 2 talent in CSGO who make 6 figures a year.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, this is how you know someone's 17 or never had any real world experience, is when they think 6 figures a year isn't impressive. Like Richard's field of journalism, right? If you go out there and you look, the average salary for a man our age, and by the way, if you've been in real world journalism, our age is a veteran as well. Like obviously over 30, you'd be in the industry like maybe 10 years, worked in different newsrooms. The average salary, I think, is something mental like £40,000 a year. That's not even halfway to 6 figures, guys. So the only idiots who dismiss that are the people who are still in year 2 of a degree going, the guaranteed the starting salary for me is 100,000. So yeah, because about 100 people get it, you daft cunt. And there's about 1,000 of you just on this course. Think it through. Exactly. That's why that number can be that high, isn't it?
They don't know that they're heading straight back to the fucking call center.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know they're going to be taking a call from us. Anyway, the Uber Eats stuff wasn't there when I was, and they're going to be thinking in their mind, like, I was supposed to get 100,000 a year. It's like, no, you weren't. That's why the average is that high, you dumb fuck. If everyone was getting it, it'd be way lower.
So let's hit a couple of points.
Suffice to say that literally making Skrilla is the one area that none of us who are talented esports are worried about right now. You've totally misguided on that one, guys.
And I just want to add as well, because a lot of people always go, oh, Richard Lewis, he's always bragging about how much money he makes, which definitely isn't me. And anybody who knows me knows that, like, money's just not a thing. Like, I just don't give a fuck. I don't dress nice. I just don't care about it. I just spend it on good times. Pick up the check for the boys. Give it away. Like it's just stuff. You just rent it anyway. I don't really give a fuck. And I think like boasting about money is kind of gauche. But if you're gonna come to me and go, haha, you're a fucking loser when you're working as like in some fucking menial job that you fucking despise and crushes your soul, and you're trying to tell somebody that gets to do what they love with no compromises whatsoever every day, completely independent, can take time off work whenever they want, is their own boss. If they're the fucking loser, then what are you aspiring to? Like what lofty fucking world do you think you're gonna get to? And to do it when coming from like a tough background and to do it the hard way as well, like constantly burning bridges, again, like the fact that it's been done with no compromise, I think that's a real achievement. And people don't want to fucking think that
no, it's like I've said to some people privately in the past. Another thing I don't do obviously is I don't put my private life like front and center. I don't champion it. I don't make it a big part. But again, there's another thing that I'll think about in the future. But again, it has to be the right time. Like if I'm at retirement age or I'm not in esports anymore, I might one day do like a book or a documentary that was about my career. Because this funny thing is, if people actually knew the real background story behind it, like what you're saying, background I came from, what I had to go through, it's actually like a mad inspirational story. Like there'd be a degree to which just putting out in the world would be cool because it actually might make some people think they could accomplish stuff. It's just the problem is, part of having success is once you have the success, people just assume you got lucky or you always were successful. Like they never know the journey it takes to get there. So I understand why people don't get it right.
Well, especially if you don't always constantly bang on about it, right? Because again, it's just something that happened. Like, my life is just a thing that happened to me. It's like, how interesting should I expect it to be to other people? So, but whatever. Look, so here's the thing. So two points about the Flashpoint stuff. I definitely think right now, currently, it's going the same way as PEA in the sense that you are losing the PR battle to ESL because of this word fatigue phenomenon. But I'll also just add, like, if there's one thing you absolutely must be doing, and when I say you, I obviously mean Flashpoint holistically, I'm doing what Reddit are doing, evidently. You've got to get the nuts and bolts completely nailed on. And we had the qualifiers for Flashpoint because obviously, unlike some leagues, it is open to all. There are qualifiers. People can get in. And there was a lot of issues with the qualifiers where the entire bracket sort of had to be reset, results overturned and not counted. And it led to a couple of, no pun intended, flashpoints with some players for obvious reasons. I think if ESL had done that, they'd be rightly crucified on Reddit and social media, and I can understand every player having a grievance. So it's like at that point that happens, to kind of stick your head over the parapet and go, yeah, but ESL still suck. It's like the timing's off for me. I think this was kind of the first look at the people running the league, and we know it's just face it essentially, bar one or two changes, and this qualifier was a disaster to begin with, and then kind of got running and has been decent since. So, obviously people will go, oh, you don't talk about it on minor numbers. Nobody, like, we're just one fucking homogenous blob that only talks about things that line our pockets or whatever. But, I did want to get your thoughts on this and kind of how it's already maybe tainted the perception of Flashpoint a little bit.
I mean, the first problem right there is if anyone knows the history of CSGO, there are continually problems with qualifiers all over the place for the biggest tournaments in the world. There are problems with the fucking major. Does no one remember like a year and a half ago or something when NIP used to have to go through the open qualifiers to get to the minor, and they were literally playing against real cheaters, like people using fucking aimbots and stuff in the open qualifier for a major, because the whole point is at that point in time, this is the real flaw we have in Counter-Strike. Our biggest strength is our biggest flaw, which is because you can actually have a team like ENCE, which in any other game would never be able to play in the top division because there was such a tiny org with no VC backing and no potential to be like a partner of the big league that you'd have to be in an LCS or an Overwatch league. But what's great is we have these open components, qualifiers, or in the case of the major, in theory, you can come from anywhere, qualify all the way through. You could even in theory do it without an org, as long as you could afford to travel to the things and stuff. One of the great things we have is, and the reason I pick an ENCE, is because they can go from being essentially irrelevant. They were a top 10 team at the time of the IM kind of major a year ago. but they can make it to the final of the major. They can make it essentially to the World Championship final. That's like a team who isn't even allowed in LCS going to World's final. That's unthinkable. It couldn't happen in any other game. So what's brilliant is it means that like when you are talent in our game, you don't have to then like go through all these hoops of like, right, I've got to join a slightly better team and then get into this league. But to get in the next league, I need to join this slightly better. You don't have to do like a really gradual career. If you were good enough now, Mad Lions is showing it. You can just literally rise through the ranks tomorrow with your player. But the problem with that is it means that you have to have these massive open qualifiers and you have to treat each round, even the first round, where obviously all those teams except like 2 aren't even going to make it. But you have to treat all of those 500 plus teams as though they were the next world champion. And each match that they're playing is an important match that has competitive integrity to see if they can qualify to eventually one day become a champion. Now, the problem with that is functionally no one can do that. Whether it's ESL, whether it's someone doing a major, when you run your open qualifiers, you do literally have to just say, like, they're on this day, Tuesday of whatever week, we're running them at this time. And you know what? Especially early on in the bracket when you've got loads of matches to do, if things go wrong, there's never a good solution. You can't replay the whole bracket. You can't replay some of the matches. Then you add in, there was all sorts of extra considerations. Like another thing that I'm so sick and tired of in esports is people just lying, just having a lie. Like there was teams out there lying, saying, oh, that the reason why their game didn't work in the bracket, right, is because they weren't able to pause the game when they only had 4 players. Ignoring that the rules from well before they even started that match said that there was no pausing, because you can imagine with 500 matches, people are just going to fucking pause all over the place like dickheads just to ruin the experience for other people or to just go to the toilet or something stupid that you're not allowed to do. And basically, the rule always was you had to call an admin to the server. And when you did that, within a couple of rounds, they turn up. And if there's someone missing, they do whatever they need to do. So the point in this scenario is there's no fix to that. As soon as something goes wrong, you're just dealing with it. You're just putting out fires, basically. I've always thought it's an area where it's both a boon and a thorn that you're letting everyone in theory try to qualify, even though you know most of them can't make it. The vast majority can't make it, let's be real. But if you do that, you have to then treat it seriously as though it was an important match. But you also can't functionally do that. You can't treat it like it's the final of ESL 1 Clogs. It isn't. It's just a meaningless online qualifier match. So unfortunately, in that scenario, the operator fucked up some of those aspects. I would hope they do it better next time. I don't really know what the choice is. Like me personally, obviously I have fuck all to do with it, doesn't it? What do you imagine I go and coach all the admins before the game or tell them about the bracket? Of course I don't. Doesn't it make sense that I would be doing that? I think it was as fucked up as everyone else did. Sounds like a lot of qualifiers I've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll
go with that.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, right? Let me sort of contextualize why it was a big deal. I mean, first of all, you've got the sort of added, I don't know, like Schadenfreude or whatever you want to call it, of, you know, we're banging on ESL for kind of denying teams entry into the league. You then do a qualifier, reset results, and essentially deny. In particular, there was one team from a Swedish streamer called Yasin YZN that they beat Forza, who were like one of the top seeded teams, if not the top seeded team in the bracket.
Legit.
And they had to reset the game. So it looks like there you've denied someone a legit run at a tournament. So there's a little bit of that. I'm sure ESL had some smirks on their faces.
That sucks. I will say, where was ESL's qualifier for this season of Pro League? Oh, 0 teams were allowed to qualify. Right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Teams that already qualified aren't in this season. So all I'll say is the contrast looks like shit on ESL there, but I know what you mean. They didn't run a qualifier, therefore them are failing to allow anyone.
They don't have a qualifier to fail at. Yeah, exactly.
That is true. I can't lie. The optics are great.
Yeah. So, and this is what I mean, though. This is what I mean about like the importance of kind of like when you go head to head with ESL on anything, like where they'll fuck up is in just doing whatever it takes to kind of like benefit themselves almost exclusively. And I think they're a little bit unashamed of that and unabashed that they do it. And it's like, if that's the only thing that's being dropped into the news pool, if that's the only thing people have to talk about, then that's all that will be talked about. If you start putting in stuff like this, like fucking up a qualifier or having an argument with somebody on Twitter or whatever it is, that then becomes talked about. And that's what ESL do. It's like it obfuscates all of the shit they're up to. And that's kind of how they operate. I mean, like, it's no secret, like, you know, there's people over there that do love the Game of Thrones aspect to what they do. They love it. They actually love operating that
I hope
way.
they do,
love
because I'm going to
operating
beat
in-
all of them. Same as any team owner or org out there who thinks they're going to play that game with me. You will lose. Because there's the other thing they don't understand, which is this. Is the other reason why, if someone cynically did recruit me for Flashpoint to be this community figure, the part that is next level that people still don't appreciate is I also will never be treated as though I was the spokesperson of Flashpoint. That's not my title. It's never been my title. It's not the purview they gave me within the company. I don't have anything with my contract that says I can't speak out on these things. But I have mobility and the ability to literally change up my position in a way that no company can ever have. So the real problem that the Ulrichs of the world and the people who are CEOs of companies have is their word really does represent their company and will be taken as such. And in fact, it will be given a very official stamp. Mine will only ever be semi-official in that regard. So I will say on that front, like, for example, we'll get in this later. I don't have too much to say, but I've said a lot of the stuff I have said already.
Yeah.
But put it this way, anyone who imagines I'm getting wrecked by like Nicola Nyholm and I think that, oh shit, why did I say that? You're out of your mind. I'm loving all his responses because what's brilliant is my responses have literally. You might not know this, people in the community, because some of this stuff's like it's very complicated information with a lot of nuance shaded in. But some of the things I'm triggering him into saying publicly are things that already are really shady. And then number two will bite him in his motherfucking ass in like 6 months from now. So I'm loving that these idiots, in thinking they're owning me in the short term, are actually putting mines out in the field that they're going to forget about and walk over later. Like it's going to be a bad scenario for them. Here's the beauty. I've already done it. Right. This is how I know how the Twitter game works and they don't. I can just apologize. I've already done it. As long as your ego can take the hit of apologizing when you're actually wrong, because I'm operating as an individual, I can just apologize if I'm wrong. Let's see them do that. You'll never see it, by the way. You'll never see ASL properly apologize for some stuff where they fucked someone over. As you said, they'll just double down and say, well, yeah, business demanded it. We had to do what's best for that. You'll never see a Nicola Nyholm admit that he fucked up or lied or cheated someone. You'll never see it happen.
I mean, it's still astounding to me
never
he's
do it.
never admitted that he's a liar.
It's bonkers, isn't it?
Like every time he's been caught, like it's mind blowing.
Put it this way: if you had someone banged to rights, you had everything they got was wrong, they lied about the facts, would you say, I present it to the court that they lied about the fact of what they did on Friday the 18th. I present that the sums of money that they said were involved were not in fact involved, Your Honor. And finally, I heard from a friend of theirs that they're a proper daft cunt. Now, did the court hear that? Like, you wouldn't add that last part in, would you? That's someone who's literally going like, fuck, what have I even got on this guy? You know what? Just say that his mom said he stinks or something. Like you're just throwing shit like that in at the end. Like, that tells you all you need to know about the level these people are on. Like, they're just throwing anything out there, guys. See what'll stick on the wall.
Well, I mean, listen, it's interesting.
That'd give me a laugh.
Well?
I thought that was funny, some of that shit he said.
Yeah. We'll get to Nyholm. I just want to wrap this up, the qualifier stuff up first, because the other thing that sort of came out was that one of the Faceit admins, and again, remember, Faceit is sort of the operator for the Flashpoint League. Get used to that.
I will just say, by the way,
operator.
I've said this 50 million times, but I'm no fan of Faceit. I never thought they were the best company in esports or anything. They fucked with me a lot. And as far as I'm concerned, like, the online qualifier is important in the sense that, in theory, maybe a good team makes it through and they have an amazing run. But aside from that, all I care about is the LAN, mate. So I hope the right teams make it there. If Forza, for example, should have been beaten, that sucks. Yeah, I wish that team was there. I hope they had a chance to go and play again at some point. But I mainly care about the actual season. I don't really give a fuck about the online qualifier. That's just I've never cared about that shit. I don't care about the minors for majors, mate.
So what happened there as well was that when Yazin went on to Twitter and said, like, I can't believe they've reset the fucking bracket, like, one of the admins kicked him out of FPLC that he was in. Which just seems like so outrageously egregious.
I don't know what the connection would be between FPL and this qualifier.
Yeah,
it's
well,
ridiculous.
Just that the admin could do it. And obviously, one of the things that I've noticed a lot that happens is, even if you're like some low-level volunteer of a big company, people get like unbelievably fucking tribal.
I have something I want to say about that. This is just something I want to say, and it's genuinely like a message to the industry, right? So many times when me and Richard are talking, even explicitly by name, to your boss, why do you, the random guy just working for literally an hourly rate, who, by the way, your company will cast you off the second you are not needed, why do you literally basically go all in and metaphorically tattoo their name across your body and act like it's ride or die, and this is your clan. This is your tribe of people. Like, it's madness. I've seen it so many times with Riot Games, so many times with ESL, so many, even with Blast when I came back. Like, one of the reasons when I first started working with them, I thought this is going to be awkward. It's because you're going to meet all these people who I've never said anything to, I've never said anything about, but because in their mind, they're part of this company and you've dissed the company, and therefore, in some sense, what they're working towards, they feel like you've disrespected. They will basically take it personally and react as though you personally insulted them. And the reason why I'm saying this is a message to the community is there are loads of brilliant people working in every one of the companies we're talking about right now. It's just that the top guys, who are the ones we're going after at the top of these companies, are the scumbags. So all you have to do is this: chill. We'll take care of the fucking scumbags in your company for you. And when they're gone, then if it's true that the rest of you are cool, you can move into those positions, can't you? You can start a new era. And it's not like we hold it against your company forever. Once the people we know the offenders are gone, you can go, we can have a fresh start. So it's actually a big time mistake to align yourself, first of all, with the scumbags. And then secondly, to do that thing where you defend the company just for literally to the ends of the earth, even though actually, if you thought about it, you defended some of them over some fucked up stuff. I've seen it with rioters over the sexism thing. I've seen it with people in every league and every exclusivity angle. It's like you don't need to implicate yourself in someone else's wrongdoing. You're just doing your job at that company. Stick with that. Wait until a better time to attach your personal feelings to the company. It's a mistake.
Yeah. There was an apology issued by Faceit for all of this stuff. They came out and it wasn't a particularly great apology. They did take action on the admin. He's been removed. He's not going to be involved anymore in the project or doing any form of adminning at either Faceit or Flashpoint or anything like that. But ultimately, they just said there was nothing we could do. It was a 500 or more team qualifier. It was all online. The brackets kind of fucked up due to a technical hitch. So physically, we couldn't process the results or track results. So we just had to reset the whole thing. And that was the first time that it happened in 4 years of us doing it. So, it wasn't a particularly great apology. I suppose there's only you can't really do anything about it. There's only so much shit that you can eat. But it doesn't sort of bode well if this is your kind of advertisement for like how we're gonna, do things differently and raise the bar and change the game. Obviously, getting out the traps with a fucking, flawless qualifier, you wouldn't have got any credit for it, but you wouldn't have got any criticism.
I mean, you shouldn't really get credit for running a qualifier.
No, I don't think so either. No,
it's just something you'd expect. Yeah, of course.
Even though we all know online qualifiers are an
it's very hard.
fucking clusterfuck.
They're a logistical nightmare. And this one, by the way, even more so than many of the other ones. One of the reasons why you can't do anything with this one is there's no time. There's no time in the calendar to run it again. Like, there's literally no time functionally to get the teams there, to get them the visa. It has to be run now. So that's one of the reasons, as far as I know, that they were basically fucked once the bracket broke.
So the other thing that obviously has been going on, that's the big news, is the teams that have kind of now confirmed to be involved with ESL, right? So we've got the 13 member teams that they've announced. And this is a bit strange to me because I saw people like saying, all 24 teams have signed up. I saw Nell saying that. But they haven't. They've agreed to be in
almost
the
like
league.
He's talking out of his ass or from someone else's ass.
Yeah, and actually, there's this now difference. 13's a very odd number, by the way, for teams to be in a league. But just to try and break it all down and explain it to people, what's happened is the ESL Pro League has changed. There's now a new agreement that they're calling the Louver Agreement, and it's going to be Astralis, Complexity, EG, ENTS, FaZe, Fnatic, G2, Mouse Sports, Na'Vi, NIP, Team Liquid, Team Vitality, and 100 Thieves. And they are now member teams, partner teams of the league. They have a sort of vested interest, a controlling aspect of the slot. And these teams cannot be relegated from the league. They will always be a part of ESL Pro League, and I imagine moving forward will get preferential treatment for invites for the rest of the ESL tour, etc., etc. Now, the fact that it's only 13 seems weird to me. I don't understand how a division between having a partnered team and just a team that's in the league anyway is going to work functionally. I saw an interview with Carmack that we can reference on Deserto where he was saying there's not going to be like any relegation per se, which then how are new people ever going to get into the league? What's the benefit of being a partnership? Like the announcement left me with a lot of questions. I don't think it's been particularly clearly
it's worse
explained.
than that. Here's the thing, right? So people, the idiots, let's just call them, got mad when actually we announced what I think is a brilliant initiative that we're going to find the teams that aren't in the top 20 in the world rankings because they're just not good enough to be in our league, right? People got annoyed by that, Richard, but they're cool with a league where on the one hand, you in theory can't be removed. There's no like process as far as we can tell where it's nailed down as to why you'd be removed from the league. So that could in itself be terrible. It could be like the Shanghai Dragons in Overwatch League Season 1. Lose every single game and make a mockery of the competition. But even worse than that, there is a case in which you could be removed. Carmack addresses it. He says essentially that like it's possible for them to do it. Right, I can tell you right now, could you imagine being a Premier League team and there being no rules as to whether you get removed and someone just arbitrarily telling you at the end of the season, by the way, we're removing you. It's like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
Why am I getting removed? And it'd just be arbitrary. It's just at their whim. The amount of danger that causes is bonkers.
People had like a negative reaction to you guys saying you were going to like put financial, you had the potential to put financial, kind of fines.
Oh, we will do it.
Yeah, on teams if they don't remain competitive in the league and they make a mockery of the league to sort of give them that extra incentive, that extra nudge in the right direction. And people were apoplectic about that. People said, this is outrageous. How could Duncan ever sign off on something like that? This is unethical. This is immoral. All these things. And yet we've got a situation over in the ESL Pro League where just arbitrarily, if you have 3 or 4 shit seasons, you can just be removed from something that you're meant to be a partner in. You've essentially bought into. I mean, that
and if you know anything about business, like the minefield that opens up is ridiculous. Think about how much Game of Thrones shit could get you fucked over there, Richard. It wouldn't even have to necessarily be legit. Like one season, remember, if you don't define your rules, there's nothing to hold you to. So one season, I'll give you a great example just to make it fun for everyone. Let's imagine the old Polish Virtus Pro team was still in Pro League. And they were doing really badly, but you know what? They're one of the most popular teams in the world, Richard. I want to invite them to my events. I want them to be part of my pro tour. So I don't remove them when they go. I'll make up a number, 0 to 21, right? But then I have a team. I'll pick one on purpose. We'll say like Furia. Right, Brazil has a lot of fans, but they're not particularly fans of Furia. And Furia, the teams have legendary names.
10th in the ESL World Rankings, by the way. There you go.
So if I wanted to get rid of that team, I could do it with them having a way better record than the Virtus Pro team in this example if it's in a different season because it's arbitrary. I can't be held responsible because I've never had to say the criteria by which I remove people. These things are important. You need to have it nailed down. Otherwise, how do you know they're not changing their rules behind the scenes? That's Riot Games, by the way, has done many, many times with their disciplinary actions. Their disciplinary actions are presented as though it was like a court document saying the ruling. And in reality, it's just a guy behind the scenes just going, this guy, fine him 2,000. This other guy did the same thing, 10,000 for him. And then you go, but why you're on it? No, there is no but why you're on it. That's it. That's the end. It's a statement. That's the end of it. So, like, even though nothing has happened there, we have no reason yet to assume anything cynical. Just the potential for abuse of that when we're talking about moving into a world where leagues will have more control over the teams in them. That's a little bit worrying for me. I'd like it to be explained how people can be removed, etc., if they can be.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely needs to come out. And the other big talking point is going to be the sheer length of the agreement. So the agreement is for 6 years. A lot of people are saying it's a 3-year contract. It's actually for 6. But to get to 6, ESL have to hit KPIs, key performance indicators.
They have to make a certain amount of money.
They have to hit targets. They have to make a certain amount of money. Yes, it's all financially driven. So, but it's 3 years minimum for all of these teams agreed. Now, within that, right, there is something tacitly going on that I hope the community kind of savvy enough to pick up on, because Carmack explicitly said in his interview with Deserto, there will not be any form of exclusivity. We will not prevent teams from going and competing in other people's leagues, other people's tournaments. Well, apart from what they can do with calendar manipulation, which we know ESL are very good at and do
they're the best in the game.
Yeah, best in the game at that. The other problem we've got is if you're a member team, if you're one of those 13 teams, the value in the league, which you are now getting a revenue share from, is in your exclusivity. So now what we've done is we're not telling you to not go play in this league, that tournament, whatever. We're not telling you can't do it, but it is in your own interests not to do that. So now we get a situation where organizations are saying, hey, look, the value is in us being exclusively in EPL and exclusively on the ESL Tour, and that's the only place you see us. So if you're a fan of us, you have to come and you have to watch the products, and that ramps up the viewing numbers, and that ramps up the potential sponsors, and that ramps up the revenue from the sales team, and that ramps up the revenue in our pocket. So because of that, players now could actually very realistically make less prize money. That's before we even get to the nuts and bolts of the deal about the trickle-down economics for the players and how the CSPPA has essentially guided them into signing with the ESL Pro League for a deal that is inarguably worse than what PEA was 3 years ago, whenever the fuck that was, and worse than Flashpoint. And I mean, might also have the added kind of negative bonus of you playing at less tournaments overall and by extension making less money. So, I mean, that's something I think people really need to watch, because I don't think those 13-member teams are going to go and play in other non-ESL tournaments now. Why would you? You are essentially weakening your own product. You're a co-owner in the league, so it is your product now.
Oh, I agree. There's definitely like that's actually why it's cleverly done. It's not that Valve's saying, right now, guys, play nice, no exclusivity, means no one's going to do it. It's just everyone goes, right, how many layers of abstraction, or how do I basically get people to behave as though it's exclusive, but without explicitly saying the word exclusivity? So I agree. That's definitely like incentivized within that. Another thing I thought was kind of cute as fuck is when you have all these teams going, oh, this is brilliant, we're part of the ESL Pro Tour. It's like my tweet I made to Astralis before the show. I did it purposely as a bit of humor, but there's a point within it as well, which is if you're going to tell me as Astralis that you're loving the ESL Pro Tour, go ahead and refer to yourself as the number 2 team in the world, because you're the number 2 team in the world in the ESL rankings. The ESL rankings took Mouse Sports making stuff like the final of CS Summit and treated it as though that was almost as good as you winning like Blast Global Finals or whatever. They literally pissed in your face and your accomplishments. So if you fuck with that, if that's the world you want to live in, embrace it. Call yourself the number 2 team in the world and we'll have a great time with it. You know what? If you actually do that, I will literally agree to accept the sentiment that you think the tour's brilliant. That's fine. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. Like, I'm confused as to what the players are seeing in this deal that they're not seeing in the Flashpoint deal, and why the agreements are being driven by the team organizers. And
I would say, by the way, I don't actually have any info on that, because the bizarre thing to me is every time I talked to a top player from, let's say, a top 5 team in the world and asked them, like, this is months ago, like, what do you think of this Flashpoint concept? Obviously, it wasn't called that back then, but, I'm just going to use that name now so I don't keep saying B-site. Right? I would ask them, what do you think of this? Some of them, I even told them, I'm not even going to, like, sell you on this, mate. I'll just tell you what I know about it if you want what I'm going to do with it. And if you want to know my opinion on ESL Pro League, I'll tell you the pros and cons as far as I see it as a person in the industry. So some of them were just friends of mine that I gave insight, but some of them were players I reached out to. What's mad is almost all of those players kept telling me, like almost unanimously, like, oh, this league sounds brilliant. Yeah, we'd much rather be in that than the ESL Pro League, but it's down to our teams. And then the teams were telling people, oh, but I'm going to let my players decide. So that's why I say there was a lot of fuckery involved with all that shit, as far as I can tell. So either people were lying to both sides, or someone was lying, and you have to determine who it might be. Now, if I had to guess, I wouldn't necessarily put on the players. The players can certainly be quite short-sighted, naive, don't know business. So yeah, it all makes sense. But I do find it quite confusing as to why all these teams sign. I'd go the other way. Like, here's the angle I don't understand, Richard, is this. Because one thing I get sick and tired of in esports is when you let other people ask the questions, you do look shit because they just ask questions that put you in a corner. You're never allowed to go on the attack. So I'll go on the attack the other way around, right? What's so brilliant about this deal that by the logic of everyone who thinks Flashpoint shit, Cloud9 and MIBR, 2 of the biggest brands in the entire world, and even people like Gen G, economically, they'll shit all over half the teams in Counter-Strike. Why would these brands not want to be in EPL? Why would they be so stupid by your logic? They'd put themselves into a smaller league, partitioned off, that's now got an uphill battle to face and all these aspects, and not be part of this brilliant Pro Tour. Why would they do it? I don't think anyone has an answer, do they? Right? What's the plausible answer? I could give you an answer for this. Maybe I think people didn't understand the economics, or they were afraid of a new project that hasn't started yet. That's a pretty good reason not to do something. You go with the devil you know. There's a lot of plausible reasons I come up with that doesn't make the person an idiot. I've never heard a plausible reason as to why these other teams would go there.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the key things here is, right, like we've seen as well, because of the report that DK put out over on Double Tap, that Weiss not going to be involved now. I mean, again, there's all this fucking layers of bullshit to pick through. Like, for example, Weiss, the body, the world fucking esports association isn't going to be involved, but the Weiss agency is going to be involved as an agency and taking 15% off the top or whatever the fuck it is. So make of that what you will. But I think that maybe then the reason that the CSPPA have kind of driven the players towards ESL is, or maybe even the players have arrived at that conclusion themselves, is because the CSPPA is going to have a seat at the table in place of Weiss, which we know historically Weiss has been incredibly dodgy in how it sort of looks after players and deals with stuff. So
there's a lot of fuckery involved with that. So I might have some shit on that in a month or so. We'll have some fun with that, boys.
Yeah. So I mean, is that not valid that the CSPPA are going to get a seat at the table? So it's not just about money. It's obviously about conditions and other
I'm sure
guarantees.
that was a big deal. Yeah. The problem with this, I'll say as well, is like the main issue with trying to gauge like whether or not these deals are good or not is you don't know what the person brought to the table in the first place and then where they ended up with the negotiations. Like you notice, you keep hearing over and over again about how historic these things are and how incredible they are. And then you like as a journalist, you're trained. You don't just look at the headline, you read through, like, let me get some details here. There's fucking nothing in these posts. They're just empty words. They're just people saying stuff like, it's truly historic. What is historic? The agreement we made, the agreement over what? But the terms and the place that we will have, right? What terms and what place we have, but the potential for it. It's like, is there anything happening? Is there something tangible that's taking place? Because what I don't understand is this. From my experience in esports, specifically the field of esports, when you have something tangible, you lead with that. You don't bury it. You don't hide it with all vague talk. When you do vague talk, you've got nothing behind it. That's the whole reason you go in vague. You're trying to make it sound like you've got something going on. You're trying to characterize something a certain way. If you had a fact, like, for example, if CSPPA got to determine how the invites work in EPL, or they had some say in how the ESL ranking works, these things would be led with. You'd lead, because that's what the headline wouldn't say, Richard. Historic deal between CSPPA and EPL. It would say historic deal as CSPPA forces, like rankings discussion and will now be part of notice it's none of that. So even though behind the scenes I have heard from CSPPA people, we've gotten these things agreed to, or we get some input here, I just tell them, like, well, when are we ever going to find out about that then? What, I just have to hear privately from you and never know if you're telling the truth or not? Like, put it out in the world if it's real. I'm waiting to see. I'd love to see if these people made some tangible progress. I want to see the player union within its own rights, if it doesn't do it stupidly, get some things that could actually help everyone. Because one of the things, by the way, that the CSPPA could do that would be brilliant for every league is demand things like truly independent rankings. That way ESL can't fuck with you, that way we can't fuck with. That's why, again, Richard, this is why PR is not basically presenting the facts. It's just spin, all of it. People also tried to hit on the fact that we were going to do a ranking that wasn't HLTV.org's. Now, ESL was never going to use fucking HLTV.org, but that's cool. They're allowed to use their own ranking, which calls Mousesports a better team than Astralis right now. But even worse than that, the whole reason we said we weren't going to use HLTV.org is because we wanted specifically to see the CSPPA would work with us to get one that players like, that's totally independent from our league. Because think about it, right? We understand that if we make the rankings and then fine our teams for not being top 20, there's an obvious conflict of interest could happen there. You could obviously abuse the system. So we explicitly want it to be that we have nothing to do with the ranking after it's designed. And then we can just look at it and say, look, we don't control that. You're not top 20. Sorry, we have to fine you. This team's not good enough. Like, I'm amazed by how people get tricked by those aspects. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So the other thing the other drama that we'll address before we actually start talking about events because there's been plenty of those since we last did a show, is obviously this Nicola Nyholm stuff. For those that don't know, Nicola Nyholm's the guy that came into the scene he's in a bit of a snaky way. He was kind of like trying to cozy up to Fallen and was going to basically utilize him to be the face of a player union that Nicola Nyholm was going to fund and ostensibly control. I went through the Dead Man's Drive the other night to, I've still got it plugged in actually. I went through the Dead Man's Drive to get that screenshot from the time Fallen's Skype was hacked. Just to remind people of that fact, because that would have been an outrageous dark timeline. But this is what he's always been interested in, is having control over the scene, because he transitioned into having multiple teams, which he denied that they were owned. They were just media rights.
Get ready for this trend, by the way, where he will lie and deny every step of the way, no matter what is proved later. That's basically been this guy's MO.
Yeah. And basically, he then, it was proven by the contract that these weren't just media rights or whatever the lie that people were using, like when they did it with fucking VP and Na'Vi, that was media rights, like wink, wink, of course, yeah, sure. It was proven that it wasn't. And then he went, yeah, well, we do own them, yeah, I suppose, yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. But we're going to divest ourselves probably at some point. Then transitioned again into creating the Blast. They were trying to make an exclusivity league, very similar in structure, actually, to Flashpoint. They had meetings with multiple players and were saying, hey, what we'll do is we'll give you a brand and you'll own it. And then, of course, they ran with the big player-owned org lie for a while. Of course, we all know that back when the players did own tiny little shares, tiny little percentages of these brands that Nyholm was funding, actually, it was such a low percentage to functionally be meaningless. They barely had a vote on the board, essentially, about 2% per player or something. And then they were like, well, we're floating on the stock market. And so now the big player-owned org isn't even a fucking player-owned org if it ever was. Like, I'm telling you, the lies and the bullshit that come out of this guy, not to mention just absolute, seems oblivious to what conflict of interest is. He's obviously not. I'm not disputing his intelligence. He just doesn't care about conflict of interest because he's one of these nouveau riche cunts who think because they've got access to a fucking slush fund of VC money, they get what they want all of the time. They're the most despicable human beings on planet Earth. The people that think, I can just buy you off. I will buy you off. Integrity doesn't matter. I'll just buy you off. I'll just buy what I want. I'll just get what I want. They're scum. They're garbage. That's who he is, right? So just want to put that out there. That's the guy who now everyone on Reddit is saying is fucking great. And it's no coincidence, actually, that funnily enough, the Blast have ran the best tournaments they have with loads of players saying how great it was. Meanwhile, he's extricated himself so we can float penny stock for Astralis. I hope no one who watches this show actually bought
Let me add this detail.
Yeah, go on,
When
please.
the guy left being involved with Blast, something like a month later, he turned on them and shit on them over the Fnatic not invite. Remember that?
Yeah, I do actually.
That's the level of loyalty and actual ethical. This guy is nothing. He's just a fucking cipher for greed. What's amazing about it? I'll tell you right now. I should have done this years ago. I'll tell you right now the basic guide to how you will see his career go. He will constantly be in shady deals, doing shady things, trying to fuck people, all for short-term gain. But you know what? Except for the fact it's basically morally and ethically wrong in certain cases, he's not wrong strategically in terms of what he's doing. And here's why. Because what he essentially on some subconscious level must have identified is that he is nothing but a low-level used car salesman in a space which, if it ever actually grows by a lot, will mean he can never be the top dog. Because better real car salesman, to use the metaphor, an actual fucking Lexus dealer guy will come in and scoop up all his shit, beat him because they know all his tricks, but they know them even better. And they can do it with more class and more execution and panache and finish. So the point is, this guy needs to get rich now. That is the point, is to make as many companies, sell as many companies, get the equity, sell the equity. It's to do it all now. It's not to be here in 10 years.
Yeah, of course it isn't. And that's why people forget this as well. Esports.com, do you remember them? Do you remember them? The fucking, we're a crypto blockchain, every fucking buzzword under the sun. We're a crypto blockchain hub for everything esports. Do you have a product? We have a white paper. Every cunt's got a white paper. Sam's got a fucking white paper on what type of fucking green blows his fucking mind more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's got a fucking white paper. Where's your product? What have you got? And Nicola Nyholm's the motherfucker that signed off on that. Remember, it was like $1 million deal sponsorship with them. That is a company that is now bust, gone under, and the people who were involved in that have headed for the hills. They're being investigated for numerous financial crimes. This is all publicly available. Nyholm thought that was a good sponsor for the #1 team in CS. That's the level he's operating on. So when you're on Reddit, and you're saying, well, you know, Thorin's a fucking arsehole, which you're entitled to that opinion. Don't ever think that the fucking enemy of my enemy is my friend in this instance, because this guy is fucking trash. He doesn't give a fuck about esports. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't give a fuck about the fans of the team. He poses like he cares about the players, only in so much as they can serve his ends. He is the physical embodiment, the personification of what VC is. We'll give you money up front, but we want a return, and when we don't get it, fuck yourself. That is the Nicola Nyholm way. That's who he is. So to see those comments about him on Reddit, like he's suddenly some sort of good guy in a sense, and an ethical businessman, it's nauseating to me. It's sickening. It's like, you know, I don't want to bang on how people on Reddit are stupid, but why will you just not stop being so fucking stupid? And then you're going to say, hey, but Richard, we're not one entity. We're not one hive mind. Stop acting like one then, you fucking mad cunts. Get a bit of critical theory all up in your fucking grey matter and actually think to yourself, I can disagree with Thorin on this take, but Nyholm is still a piece of shit. Just do that. It's really easy to just look at something, what is actually happening, assess it with your brain, and go, oh, okay, well, this is how I probably should feel about this, you know, metabolizing it through with all of your personal values and knowledge and everything else, and just arrive at a sensible outcome. Not orange-haired man bad, fucking serial liar good, because you don't like something Thorin tweeted. It's fucking mind-blowing to me that that's a real thing. Anyway, so Nick, you and Nicola Nyholm, it's not even a spat. It's like he just said, oh, I can put up with Thorin's whining, but it's the lies I can't abide. And then, of course, by the way, whenever you do anything like this is unprofessional. Nicola Nyholm, a businessman, he basically intimated that your employers think secretly that you're mentally ill and a loose cannon. And everyone was going, classy response from Nicola Nyholm. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like he literally opened. Yeah, he literally opened up by quoting a Flashpoint executive, which, by the way, I mean, maybe a Flashpoint executive does think that
it's
about
totally
you.
plausible, by the way. That
Yeah, it is totally plausible. Like I was going to say, like, I can't lie to you, I can't lie to you. Maybe that did happen, but just to open up with that is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And not a classy response, and actually shows the one thing you'll realize about Nicola Nyholm, like when he was sliding into my DMs trying to make peace, he's like a child as well, because again, these people cannot take no for an answer. You must love him. Don't love him, don't want to suck his cock, don't want to lick his ass.
I always think you have a price.
Then there's something wrong with you. Yeah, exactly. This is how they fucking think.
No joke, what guys like this really believe is that they just haven't found yet the right thing to say to me and Richard. Like they think if they say to Richard, yeah, what if we were to have a dinner and discuss some sort of a project? You know, I'm very interested in journalism, Richard. I'd like to open a new portal. Perhaps you could be. They're just waiting to find whatever they think the bullshit they can spin in your ear that'll make you get on their side, because that's the way that they operate. They can be bought and sold for any amount. Like that's who they are.
No, but it's like, you know, when you're dealing with a serial fucking, like an actual someone with narcissistic personality disorder, when you get that. Like, for example, here's another one, just to throw it in there, because, you know, I've said, like, 2020, if you thought 2019 was gloves off, 2020 is just straight fire. Dead Man's Drive, stories, fucking everything true. Kim Rom, that guy, you know, that's trying to get back into esports. He hit me up on Skype, like it was almost a year ago to the day, to try and fucking like apologize. So let's be clear about what this guy did. He strung me along for a job he had no intention of giving me, did a job interview with me while he was wrecked in a fucking hotel room and just rambling incoherent nonsense while I was trying to take it seriously and professionally. Made me write an article, one of the more successful ones on the website he ran, under a pen name to prove that my work had value when I was already one of the biggest journalists in the space. And then when I bumped into him at the Turner Sports meeting, the very first meeting where there was discussion about whether or not I could be the host of the TV show, he got absolutely wasted and tried to start a physical fight with me in front of the fucking vice president of the network. Yeah, weird how people do. And then he fucking had the nerve to hit me up and go, yeah, I just thought we could have a talk. No, we can't have a talk, mate. We can never have a talk. How many strikes do you think you get? But because they're a fucking narcissist, they think he'll come around. He must like me. I like me. So why wouldn't he like me? Fuck you, you slime. You're slime. Like, you had no dog in that fight and you were trying to get me in trouble so I would lose the best opportunity of my life to date. That's who you are. So fuck you. No, there is no making up after that. And I hope he does get back in it. I hope all these people try and linger in this space. It's what keeps me going. It's the only reason I stay in esports is to fuck with people like that. It ain't for the fringe benefits. It ain't for the money. I could go do something that has real value, real meaning, not this. I stay to make sure those guys, their transgressions, multiple transgressions, are never forgotten. So fuck them. But anyway, that's Nicola Nyholm. But anyway, he put out all of this mad stuff, basically saying we signed a term sheet, but it was conditional upon Flashpoint signing 2 other top teams to give the league some weight. That in itself seems to be a bit weird because Cloud9 and MIBR, I mean, I don't know what the qualification of what a top team is. And then clearly what he actually did was he basically gave an agreement, a signed agreement to Flashpoint to, hey, we're in if you can get top teams. Then went to ESL and said, that's what we've done. And then they raised their money and their offer. And then at that point, because we even know, like, does Glaive, apropos of fucking nothing, tweet out, we're in neither league at the moment when you have a signed agreement with Flashpoint that if you recruit those other top teams, well, right there, Glaive has just said something that would put teams off from joining. So I'm not saying Nyholm told him to do that, but it's fucking suspicious, isn't it?
But this way, I would just point out for the record that when ESL announced that Astralis was an invited team to ESL Pro League when they had not yet signed, no tweet from any player. Not Glaive, not Nicola, no one tweeted. So even though on one hand they had a signed thing that hadn't yet come into play, yes, had to be activated by the teams joining, you act as though there's no reason whatsoever we'd be in any league. And then when there is a thing where someone says you're in a league and there's nothing signed, crickets. All I'll say is it's interesting how these things work, isn't it?
Yeah, people don't look at all of the fucking pieces. I mean, even smart motherfuckers like DK's there going, holy shit, I didn't even think of that. Why would players be tweeting about whether or not they're involved in a league? Why would they be saying, hey, we're not fully agreed to anything yet? Why wouldn't they just shut the fuck up? It's not their purview. Why wouldn't they just sit silent? And we know if there's one thing that Astralis is actually known for, it is that the fucking poison that drips down from Nicola Nyholm at the top infects the fucking players, runs right up their fucking spine and has them chirping shit that they don't even want to say it. They don't even want to do it. We only like to fly east. We are taking some time off from events to focus on our health. But not blast events, the ones owned and run by our parent company, because those events do not tire us out. Like, fucking hell, Zonic, you're a legendary player, a fucking nice guy, everybody loves you. Why are you doing that? You know why he's doing it? Because Nyholm uses the players as a fucking extension of his fucking evil machinations. Now, here's the one thing
It is smart. It's effective.
Oh, yeah, no, but this is the fucking beauty of it, right? I'm not even going to sit here because people were saying, yeah, Thorin, you moron, how dare Nicola Nyholm negotiate the best deal for Astralis? If Nicola Nyholm wasn't negotiating the best deal for Astralis, on top of him being a cunt, a rat, and a fucking liar, he'd also be incompetent. So that would just tip it off, wouldn't it? He'd just be the perfect clusterfuck of a human. He'd just be fucking loose skin at that point. What would be the point of him? So obviously, yes, he's negotiated the best deal, and good on him for doing it. Absolutely, he played the fucking game well. But, you know, let's not pretend that just because you can fucking do really shady fucking negotiation tactics to get a good deal for yourself, this means that you're a good person and you're running a good organization.
By the way, why do people keep flipping? Because I notice Reddit particularly is like this. They have two positions they flip to, and they're totally like mutually exclusive worldviews. One is like, wow, the world's being ruined by corporatization and massive companies just doing things purely for wealth and greed with no consideration for human morality and the principles around which we want to live in a modern society. Flip. Then if it's a company they like, the company can do all the same shit. Business is business. Yeah. Got to make that bottom dollar, haven't you? It can't be both. It can't be. Yeah. It can't be. Yeah. Like, if the same people who are cool with that, like, well, just Thorin to just lie to people repeatedly, do whatever the fuck you want, and then later on refuse to even take the consequences of being a liar, and then say that you were still telling the truth, that's just business. That same person should now never, ever comment on anything me or you ever do, or anyone else in esports ever does with a business deal. I don't care what the deal. If you hear a player gets signed in for 5 years, you should go, brilliant. Business is business. Great for that org. If you hear a player gets fucked over, doesn't get paid by an org, but doesn't have the money to take them to court, you should say, brilliant. Business is business. They got what's best for them. If you hear that a company allows players to fly to the United States of America years ago and play and literally work in America, knowing that if the immigration services ever found out about that, that person could be banned for 10 years and their entire career ruined, you should say, brilliant. Business is business. Great for the game dev that they didn't have to get those visas. Are you going to do that? Of course you're not. It's a ridiculous premise. That's why I set it up like that. But bizarrely, when it comes to like the drama, like reality TV show angle of like, well, I like this person, I don't like the other one. People just like side with the most evil fucks in the entire space and go, well, you know what, Richard? What they did wasn't technically illegal. Now. It's like, well, that's great then, isn't it? Fucking hell. There's got to be a higher standard, boys.
I mean, I'll add as well, like, just to fucking underline the stupidity. Right, you put a tweet out where you were going, now you might think his name, there's a video of you going, you might think his name is Nikolaj, but it's actually Nikolai. He even has a lie in his name.
Pretty funny.
I mean, not really, not your best work, right? Like, definitely don't take that on your fucking Broadway show. Don't take that out on tour.
That's one of those ones I'm standing by. I'm going down with that ship. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. Listen, we're at that age now where you're entitled to a fucking.
Oh, it's boomer humor. Don't worry about that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no. Boomer as fuck. You do your thing. It's fine. But like, what pissed me off was people were like, it's like they had to mindfuck themselves in that Reddit thread about it. Thorin responds to Nicola Nyholm as if, first of all, it was a serious response addressing what he said. Like, no, it's like some 16-second throwaway video you did because you're fucking demented and like to fucking abuse yourself. And then on top of that, fucking everyone was trying to pretend he didn't know what a joke was anymore in that thread, going, well, this is just Thorin being a man-child. I've never seen anything like it. This is unbelievable. It's a joke, you mad cunts. Why are you seriously assessing this throwaway thing? Nikolai. He lies. That's it. That's the whole bit.
That's it. That's everything you need to know there, guys. There's nothing deeper. It wasn't. I don't know what that's a response to. It's a response to his name. That's all it's
Mate, they were treating it like it was fucking QAnon. Like, trying to break down what does he mean? What's he really saying? How long's Thorin been in league with Donald Trump to fucking capture Pizzagate people? Like, what the fuck is this? It's a throwaway 16-second video, you daft cunts. 200 fucking comments, so you're trying to break it down, what it means about Thorin and whether... Jesus fucking Christ. Like, if you want to be taken seriously, right, you cannot just be that. You cannot just be that nameless daft cunt that fucking posts absolute garbage because you don't like somebody and think, well, typed up my hatred for Thorin today, I get to walk away from the keyboard feeling good about myself. No, fuck you. Like, if you want, like, you can elevate the level of discourse on social media. You do realize you're directly responsible for that, right? And you can start today by just not being a fucking cretin. That's all it takes. You've got it in you. I believe in you. I believe you're not really 80 IQ. You might even be 90. Go out there, do your fucking thing. Just start typing less dumb shit. Just take up, and if you see dumb shit, there's a brilliant mechanic. It's called downvoting. Don't downvote opinions you don't agree with if they're well articulated, or someone's took the time to write a 1,000-word post about why Thorin's actually good, and you go, ha, fuck that ginger twat, and downvote it fucking immediately because you're just a fucking idiot. Don't do that. Engage and have fucking conversations. What? You make the subreddit shit or bad. Who else are we going to blame? Who else are we going to put it on? It's on you, you fucking cunt. It's like if you fling shit all around you, 10 of you, just all get in a room and you all start shitting in your hands and clapping and throwing it up the walls. And then you all look at each other and go, it's fucking full of shit in here. And I'm going, I'm not coming in, lads. It's full of shit. And you go, how dare you imply that we are throwing shit out?
Why is the idiot voice always like vaguely northern? Like, wait, what bloody
Johnny
hell's going
Vegas,
on?
basically.
I'm obviously a self-hating fucking northerner, aren't I? Anyway, for fuck's
I mean, it is
sake.
a good ignorant voice. That is what people in the north are like. Bloody,
Yeah, it is
what's
true.
going on in here?
I just want Britain to be back British. You know what I mean? Just fucking that type of moron. And then they go on fucking Reddit and they type things up. Anyway, for fuck's sake, what was all that about? Do you have any final thoughts? I mean, like, I know you can't obviously fucking say too much at the moment, but I reckon, there'll be a round two. There'll be a rematch between you and Naomi.
Of course, yeah. Don't worry about that. Listen, here's the good thing about this league. First of all, as you've already seen, I'm willing to be transparent about things that nobody is. And by the way, I've seen people then trying to take this whack angle of like, oh, you say you're transparent, then tell me literally your bank number now. Like, I'm not. I'll choose what I'm transparent about, you thick cunt. It doesn't mean I have to tell you every single thing in the whole world. Like I obviously used that as a hyperbolic example, but that's the equivalent of what people are doing. Like people were literally asking on our stream the other day, Richard, like, you say you're transparent. Will you be revealing all the salaries of all the players? What, the employees of fucking private companies? No, I don't think I will be, you daft cunt. What are you talking about? Is that the only two options we have? To tell you nothing, or to tell you literally everything, including info that wouldn't benefit?
Yeah, but that's how it is. It's like every time a journalist puts out a story and the source is anonymous, they go, well, you've got no sources. No, I do have a source. You don't know who it is. You don't get to know. It's like that part of the world is just shut off to you. You're not entitled to know. And you go, well, if you're not willing to reveal the name of your source... Well,
Exactly.
Okay. I suppose I will burn somebody giving me a highly sensitive story, ruin their lives, just to win an argument with a fucking 80 IQ fucking subnormal on fucking Reddit. Yeah, definitely. Seems like a very good career move, actually. But you're against transparency then? No, I'm not. I'm just.
So anyway, the basic point is, I don't have much to say about that right now. I've already said all I wanted to say, basically. If you notice, I don't respond to that guy. Like, guess what? I don't respond publicly to known habitual liars in a space where there are no consequences to them lying and they can just continue to lie. So yeah, I don't play rigged games. I don't know if you know that, guys. Like, that's not a fun game for me. So I'll just say whatever I want as it is. He can keep his pissant little tiny Twitter follower account that I'll never ever engage with, and I'll just keep doing my shit and having a massive megaphone and just pissing in his face. But if you want to get all the straight fire details, stick around for a few months. That's going to be some of the fun. Here's the thing, mate. If I ever do this league, like you said, what happens if you ever leave this league? Tell you what, there'll be a fucking apocalyptic nuclear Holocaust Fallout type world left behind me, mate. Like, you can only imagine what it'll be. It'll be amazing. I'll drop
I think what we need to do is like we need to have some sort of like agreement where if like one of us gets like sick, we get terminally ill and we only have a few months left, the other has to inject themselves with the same illness so we can go out in roughly the same time scale and drop
we could take everyone out.
Once.
Yeah, we could take everyone out.
Yeah, like straight, like if I cannot have esports, no one will. And you just fucking destroy the industry. Like, it'd be good. Anyway, so let's talk about events, because events are good. There's been a lot of the Blast. We've had all of the group stages for the Blast so far. I'm actually trying to bring up a sort of the way HLTV have done it. They've done it by group because they've done a fantasy for each week. So I'm just trying to get the overview up while I'm talking about it. But let's just talk with a general point. Obviously, you were working with the Blast. They were in London. I got to say that despite having been massively critical of the Blast in the past, this is a breath of fresh air. In fact, very reminiscent of 2016 E-League, if I'm being honest. I think it meets up to that higher standard, bar one or two details. I think the set is brilliant. I think the broadcasts have been brilliant. I think everything's run on time. I can't think of any delays or any tech problems. High standard of games.
They had the occasional ones maybe with people's headphones, I noticed, but again, these weren't like massive problems. They were like 5-minute fixes, you know.
Yeah, very quick turnarounds. So for me, I think it's been brilliant. It's had some great games. We'll talk about the results in a second, but I think I was talking to some of the Blast guys. They kindly reached out. Obviously we've had our differences. We've been critical. That's what I do. But credit where credit's due. I think this is it's certainly been the best tournaments we've had in 2020 so far, and sets a very high bar for the rest of the year. Obviously, you were working it. What I think's great is there's been all these like little innovations, little things like being able to listen to the player comms and metabolize that in analysis.
That is actually amazing. Yeah.
No, I bet it is. And integrating, skybox stuff and doing better analysis segments. Broadcasts have flown by very well, and I like what they're doing as well. By instead of it's a little bit of desk, and then they have a little bit of content. It's a little bit of fun, just a stupid thing where they're throwing darts at chickens. Doing that at half time. So instead of coming back out to the desk, here's a little just bit of filler content, and then we go right back into the game. So yeah, I'm hugely impressed with the broadcast and the strides that it's taken, and clearly they can take a lot of pride in it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I referenced this before, but the reason why I actually work with Blast again is the key decision makers at the top are not the same people. There is no Nicola Nyholm. Like, I would never work with the company this guy's fucking involved in. Even the person that was in charge of the communication stuff, who I thought was an absolute clown and fucked up again, even he's gone. Like, all the scumbags mainly are gone. Like, the main person now at Blast is that Nicholas Estrop guy, which anyone...
Yeah, he's a legend.
He's a legit grassroots person who comes from the community and legitimately lives and breathes, not just esports, or Counter-Strike specifically. Like, this is a guy where I see totally way more of his DNA in Blast Premier than in Blast Pro Series. Blast Pro Series does feel like the Nicola Nyholm refresh type experience, which we all saw the problems that had, and basically half of it was PR as well as the actual things of like how they structured the tournament, the concept of being a road show but only having 2-day events, having scenarios where you go on and on about the crowd, but then you find out later you were losing fucking millions running the tournament, which will never cease to irritate me that people actually think those are like reasonable things on a ledger. It's like, at that point in time, you may as well give everyone in the fucking crowd $1,000 and go, are you going crazy yet? Like that would make them out much sense. This instead was everything that Blast Pro Series wasn't. It was like manageable size environment. Like, it had a limited studio audience, but as a result, you always had the chairs filled and you always had people who cheer for their team, etc. It had, because it was all in one place and not a road show, by about week 2 or 3, they'd nailed all the variables. They knew the camera angles, they knew the lighting, they had all of it. It was looking amazing. That's why your allusion to E-League's actually not a minor one, because E-League was taking part in a real TV studio that has like a closed set and all the brilliant things you'd want. This wasn't quite the same level in terms of the location. It was like a British studio, which aren't kind of as big security and stuff like that. But obviously it looked similar. It had the same sort of professional sheen. I even noticed on the desk myself, very small things that wouldn't be noticed by a fan. Like, for example, they were really, really good at when one of us started talking, seamlessly switching to a one shot of that person. Now, I've done ESL events, some of the biggest events in the world, where there is no one shot of me. There's only a 2 shot of the analysts, a shot of all of us, the analyst and the host, and a 1 shot of the host. So if I'm ever talking next to Sponge at that ESL event, you just see me and Sponge, and he just stood in the frame acting weird or whatever. Like this, they would even have the basic minor things of make sure you're on the right person, and it made the production look awesome. Like, it just looked super slick. What's funny is it wasn't until Shocks came on the 3rd week that I actually even noticed what a great job they'd done with the production elements. Like, because obviously I'm just thinking about what I'm saying and the conversation I'm having with the people on the desk. Right? I'm not looking as much at the broadcast because I'm only seeing out the corner of my eye and the program on it. It was only when Shocks came and she was mentioning things about like the show floor and like, we're going to do this here. Because since people like me and Sponge are such veterans at being desk people, and we worked through all those events that had a million time delays and tech problems. So we're so used to filling and just rolling with the punches. I didn't realize until week 3, literally, that actually it was a very structured desk. It's just that they followed our cue instead of the other way around. So what would happen is we'd be talking, and then when I mentioned MIBR, they would start playing the MIBR footage, and then we because we're pros, we would switch and go right. And then, as you see here, Fallen's doing this, and then we talk about the lineup as it came on. Like, that's the key thing. They understood basically that if they just cued into what we were doing, it looked amazing and seamless. Whereas if you go the other way, the American approach, which is like, at this minute, you will say, we're going to bring up the roster now, we're only going to talk, and you have to, no matter what you're talking about, eject from that immediately and go into that. You do the same overall thing, but it'll be way less, like, it won't seem as cool, it won't seem as organic. So I thought they did a great job with some of those production aspects, because when I looked back, it was very highly produced, but in the moment, I felt like I had a lot of room. I never felt like I was getting cut off generally.
I mean, I like I say, it was very similar to like when we used to have Alchemist over at E-League, and he would be listening, and because he understood the game, he would be going along with you, and he'd be bringing up footage, of games and graphics, and you didn't even have to reference them. They were just there, and the people at home, it was something else to look at rather than my ugly mug or whatever. So yeah, I think it's been great. It's thrown up some great games. It's thrown up some great moments. I like some of the ancillary content they've done, like the little on the fly stuff, like obviously the speech about the Mamba mentality that you did. That was good and sort of came out of left field for me. I was like, the idea, by the way, as well, like I'll say, fucking, you weren't reading off an auto cue, were you?
No, I made that up. It was impromptu.
Yeah, that's fucking mental. This is another thing people don't realize. Like on real television, like when you do those straight to camera monologues, like you're reading off an auto cue. Even I've done that when I used to do Richard's rant over at the PUBG show I used to do. So to be able to pull that out of your ass and do it without an auto cue, like even as somebody that works without an auto cue, without a teleprompter, that's insane, because I couldn't do a monologue, I don't think, without one.
I'll even say, by the way, there's a good example, actually, of the things that how interested they are in expanding the broadcast possibilities. Because that concept wasn't my idea. What happened is it was actually the Nicholas Estrup guy I'm talking about came to me and said, what would you think if we could have a segment where basically you could sort of take control of the camera and just give a little rant on something? And he just said, maybe you could do a tribute to Kobe. Like, I know you were a fan.
Yeah.
Now, I took that and did my own view. Like, it wasn't really about Kobe, was it? It was like the mentality.
It was about his mentality and how he
I wanted to like
apply
esports. And I obviously had like an angle, sort of an axe to grind with pros who have all those bullshit excuses that I read dressed in that, And the whole thing of that as well is like, oh, listen, I'm sure there was other points I would have made as well, but I didn't remember in the moment. But I pretty much got it all off. Like, it all went pretty well, I noticed.
Yeah, it was really.
I thought it was a cool
good
idea for a concept. Look, because again, it's something unique to esports. We wouldn't have in another game.
Yeah, and the other good thing that I liked was when they got Jason Lake to talk about the one fan and stuff like that. Like,
yeah,
no, because what people don't realize is when you've got an event going on, usually people are too fucking focused on, holy shit, we got to get the game started, servers breaking down, a player's putting in some fucking old mouse drivers and it's broke everything, and stall on the desk. People are running around like fucking headless chickens trying to make sure, like, basically it's like, you got this smooth surface, that's what you guys see, but then it's a raging undercurrent where you can get fucking dragged in, dragged down, and the whole event can fucking drown, right? That's what live event production, live event adminning and all of that stuff is like. But so because of that, you usually don't have that eye for detail. You usually don't think, oh, look, there's Jason Lake with that one fan. We can turn that into a segment. Let's actually go film that now with our fucking camera crew, or tragic news about Kobe. Let's change what we're going to do on the broadcast and let Thorin do a 2-camera rant. And so you don't have the time to do that. So what that says to me is, the event is being run incredibly well. They're incredibly organized, and they have staff that can pick up on those little details and implement them accordingly. So again, that is like just the icing on.
Well, that's also another thing about the format, though. And I will say, like, as you alluded to before, because you are right, like some of these details are things we're going to do at Flashpoint. In fact, I'll even tell them unapologetically, I've seen some cool things on Blast. I even messaged my Flashpoint producer, like, put that in our show. We're going to have that as well. Like, so I'm also just stealing the good ideas, because that's what good ideas are for. So one of the things...
I see the Blast almost
sure.
like this is probably a bit. I'm giving them all this praise, and I'm about to say something derisory by accident. But I was going to say I almost see it as a dry run for Flashpoint in a way. It's a lot of the same talent. It's the format's obviously going to be different, and the teams are going to be different. But in terms of I'm watching the Blast, expecting Flashpoint's broadcast to be at least as fluid.
I would hope so, yeah.
As that, yeah, if not better.
But one of the key things that Blast has done, which we're also going to do at Flashpoint, is they do only 2 series a day, and they don't use an accelerated schedule. Because one of the things you touched on before, which is also a key reason I've never blamed the ESLs of the world when they're on the road tour type approach to esports. The reason also why they can't do all this footage on the fly is because since you always have delays and problems, it means even 2 hours into your broadcast, you're behind time, you're behind schedule, you're already literally racing against time that you can never make up. All you can do at that point in time is fuck up further, and you're just literally praying that doesn't happen. Not least because we have the most unforgiving fans, because they're all fucking 17-year-olds who know nothing about actually executing anything in the real world that's tangible outside their fucking mind. They just go, well, I would have run an event and bloody told them to do it right. Like, it's just nonsense opinions like that. So one of the sick things about having only 2 matches a day is, first of all, the people who work those matches can never be fatigued. Even the longest 2 best of 3s in the world, as long as you've actually been responsible with your sleep and your diet, you can manage that. Like that's like maximum like 8 hours maybe. Worst case scenario. Now, to work 8 or 10 hours is not unreasonable. Like, that's not terrible. And that's the worst case scenario. You might only have to work 4 or 5 hours if it works out well. So
I used to pull longer shifts than that when I was working in a fucking bar, mate.
So that's absolutely reasonable. The difference is when you can go up to 15 hours a day, yeah, that's totally unreasonable. And that is actually, I look back on that, and part of me even thinks sometimes I wish I hadn't done that. That might have taken years off my life doing some of those fucking events back in the day. Then you got to look at the fact that even though fans will always think, but I want an accelerated schedule. I don't want to wait an hour before. No, but that's the point. In the downtime between it means you can always catch back up to the schedule. And then secondly, it means you can do things in that downtime. Like we were experimenting with some things here where sometimes when it was a 2-0 on the first match, me and Sponge went and did like a live thing on Twitter where it was like streamed live on Twitter. We did like an AMA or whatever. I'm sure in the future they'd even consider putting something like that on the broadcast because again, the talent that you have at some of these events, we want to do more features as long as it makes sense, as long as we don't feel like we're just being ripped off and worked for no reason, as long as it's a legit thing that can bring value to the viewer and allow us more space. There's another aspect, more space to actually talk about the game and things that we didn't get to say on the desk. We'll do those things. That's cool at that point in time. When I'm not overworked, I don't mind giving you an hour every now and then and doing something extra just to have some fun with it. So I feel as though a lot of these things, and this is why I'm purposely setting it up this way. It's that except for the E-Leagues of the world, no one could have done this in the past. Like ESL's model is to go from stadium to stadium around the world, sometimes in new locations. Like they have to run 3 best of 3s in a day sometimes. They have to be behind schedule. They have to get out of a certain venue at 10 p.m. or 6 p.m. or wherever it might be in the world if it's a trade fair or something. Like they haven't been in a situation previously where they could do this because it's about it's something I've mentioned many times, often gets lost. When everyone praises Koreans for how brilliant they are at everything in esports, they always ignore the actual variables. Like, for example, Koreans, when they do those great OGN tournaments, like in League of Legends, Overwatch, StarCraft, they're all in the same studio for like 10 fucking years. The guy who moves the camera only moves it like that. He never moves the physical camera and puts it in a new spot and plugs it in the wall. The camera stays there. The set stays there. The studio, everything's the same. That's how you get to excellence in execution. That's why E-League was a breath of fresh air, because it was the same guys who, by the way, already worked in that fucking studio anyway when we do an E-League. Like, they knew every single square inch of that. Whereas you can't expect a guy from ESL who's going to Rio for the first time his entire life and putting his camera up there and setting it. It's going to be a nightmare. He's going to have to adapt on the fly. In fact, if people only knew as many problems as esports events have, if you only knew the talent that people have for putting out fires behind the scenes in those events, it's actually amazing. Like, I think there are bigger industries than ours that'd be in deep shit if they ran into some of the problems we run into. Like, we have some amazing problem solvers in esports.
Well, I mean, just think about some of the shit that has happened where it's like, well, Valve are dropping an update in the middle of your tournament and now nothing works. Exactly. Well, fuck yourself. Like, to be able to pivot, to know who to talk to, how to get a rollback, like...
Think about how rarely in esports we've ever not actually finished a tournament.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can think of two in all my years.
Exactly.
Like, by hook or by crook, we get to the end.
Like, we really have the war mentality of, like, you just survive. You just keep going and you survive no matter what's happening.
And so, yeah, it's like I said, the fact that the Blast has been this well run has really been great. And I've been enjoying the games. Let's talk about some of the big storylines that have come out from the first 3 group stages, which, I mean, I guess
there's been some mad upsets.
And this is legit. These are, again, this isn't like the old best of 1 format for those that maybe haven't followed it since 2019. This is all best of 3s, you got fucking double elim shit going on, like... This is a legit fucking series of games. So the big story, I guess, Astralis got absolutely fucking creamed in their group, lost both of their matches, and therefore finished in absolute joint dead last spot, and are going into the last chance showdown. The results were, I mean, first of all, the big one is obviously they lost to Complexity. Which, to put it into context, right? Like, usually people say betting odds are the best barometer of who's going to win, who's going to lose.
What was that, like 1% for Complexity or something? It must have been something insane, right?
It was like a $26 return for every dollar you put down or something. At one
You'll
point.
almost never see that in your life.
No, I know, that's what I mean. It's like they go 21 or 26 to 1 at some point. Like, and I was looking at that going, which bookmakers, like, Are you serious? Because it's CS. There's always a fucking chance, by the way. But that's how big it was. There you go. It was 26-1 confirmation. So some cunt. You have a flutter on that. If I see anything 26-1, I'll put $100 on that. Of course I fucking will. So someone out there has placed a big bet and made fucking bank.
Sure.
Like no doubt about it. But anyway, apparently, according to Ben Woodward, who was an expert on these things, he said the last time there was ever 26-1 was when Chiefs beat North at IEM 2017. That was the last time the odds were that
Sydney,
spread out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in here. So anyway, I mean, crazy upsets. I'll start by talking about Astralis. Like, they just looked a bit lackadaisical, like they didn't turn up. I don't think it really means anything. They obviously lost to Na'Vi as well, was the other one, with like in a 2-1 best of 3, with a 16-14 on the last map. It's like, I don't know, I feel like Astralis do this sometimes. They do get a little bit funky and they don't, they're not always optimal. I don't think it's the start of any decline or whatever, but it must be like unbelievably disappointing given kind of like, the history and where they come from and the blast and all of that. And of course, like really the first big legit tournament of the year. And they've kind of like just limped through it and been embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like, as you alluded to before, they're not actually out. In fact, they could even still get to the finals if
exactly. They could still win the whole fucking thing.
Like, in fact, as it stands right now, there's a fun bet if you want to have one. Whatever the odds are on Astralis winning this tournament still, which probably exists somewhere because they have a lot to do. It's probably better than whatever the odds are because the odds would have to be pretty bad. They'd have to go through the showdown, then get to the finals and still win it. But like, they're just so good as a team, they could probably do it. That's the sick thing about them, isn't it? So I would say that first of all. And then secondly, the other thing is, I also am kind of with you. Like, people might think, oh, this is your perfect chance to talk shit on Astralis. Look, they've just been literally, they've been beaten by Perfecto or nobody in Complexity. It was a shit team that everyone was laughing at. But actually, the problem is, I don't think theirs is even the most embarrassing of the big name teams that bombed this tournament. Because if you look at the context, right, so in the opener, they lost to Complexity. Now, here's how those games went very quickly. They had a game on Dust 2 that was really close, and Complexity won it. Fine, that's fine. Complexity just came back, was just going fucking great guns on that one. Then they had a game on Vertigo where Astralis picked Vertigo, but it turns out that despite the fact Complexity has been shit and all they've done is play online and get their heads kicked in by nobodies, they actually the whole time have secretly had Vertigo in their back pocket, practiced in the hopes Astralis would pick it this one time, did, and it was still a close game. Like at this point in time, you know how many things had to go right there for that result to happen? Then go over to the other match. Oh, by the way, I'll even throw in as well on the Complexity series. The way Complexity were playing there, not only will they not play like that in 2 months, but if they do, and Furia can tell you this, they'll get their shit pushed in if they play like that. Because they were playing as though they were Astralis and the other team was shitters from nobodies. Like they were like Poison and Obo were taking peaks and pushes that normally you would just get your head smashed in against any tier 1 team if you do this. But it's almost like Astralis just never ever thought it was even possible. They thought like no one's going to do this against Astralis. Come on. We body that. Then you go to the other match, which, as you said, it's not like it was a stomp. The other one, they smashed them on train, and then they lost Nuke and Inferno, the 2 best maps of Astralis, to a Na'Vi team that's not even famous for being good on those 2 maps. So I look at that series, and I have to say that series has one name that makes it an outlier. It's Simple. Simple just went 2018 Simple. That can happen against anyone. Now, I know in previously it almost never happened against Astralis, but it did. So I don't even look at that, really, once I put all the context in and say it's that bad. Like, actually, I can sort of give Astralis almost a break for that. Yeah, you are the best team, so you still should win. But actually, if I look at all the different circumstances that had to happen, it's not as terrible as you think. Like, there's definitely teams we can bash on way worse that were big names that would bomb this tournament as it is.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll jump on one. I mean, are we even bothering to be critical of MIBR at any point? Are we?
No. Like, here's the thing. I've said this before. When you know the situation MIBR's in, we know their team isn't good. We know that they can't pick up anyone good right now. I expected them to do badly in that group. I didn't think they had a chance. That's why, for me, actually, Team Liquid's probably the team that skates by out of this because they still get to go to the finals, right? But only from beating fucking Nip and MIBR, teams that were actually quite bad on the day. So I actually thought Team Liquid looked terrible in that group when they got dusted off by FaZe twice. So despite the fact they're in the finals, I actually thought they were almost more underwhelming than Astralis.
I mean, I will bring this up because we didn't talk about it on the podcast yet. There was that weird fucking thing where it was like Semler, because he's been doing the rounds now that he's back in CS, doing interviews and all that. he said that, they'd lost that MIPR had lost their hunger.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is like a reasonable fucking assertion, honestly. Like, why would you be as hungry as you were when you were in Luminosity and fucking nobody rated you and nobody thought you were ever going to do anything?
They had the rags to riches storyline of the guy grinding, eating scraps, fucking working 2 jobs. Like, it's a sick storyline, but obviously you couldn't be as hungry as that. No one can be. It's reasonable.
So it was a bit weird that Fallen gave like a bad reaction. He sort of came out and said like, you don't know how hard we're working. I thought it was funny on the broadcast where Fallen sat down and you said, well, if you're working out, why are you shit? Like...
in my own fat, and then looked at him with that.
I know, and you gave him the fucking beak face, live beak face.
And what's great is, here's the thing, because obviously it's a bang on point, isn't it? He doesn't even argue. He just goes, "Yeah, it's funny," or something like that.
Yeah, it's funny.
He just takes it. No. I will say, by the way, I don't want to go full fucking ruin the whole kayfabe element here and ruin everything for you guys. But Fallen himself, are you ready? Everyone who's Brazilian, cover your ears. Yeah. Fallen actually is someone who gets it. Like, even when he says that to Semler, he's doing that in part for his fans, not for Semler. He doesn't. He wasn't really offended by what Semler said.
No,
he knows the way the game's played.
Mate, if he was offended, he wouldn't have done a segment with you. He wouldn't have gone up to Semler and shook his hand. Like, the thing with Fallen is, like, he said some stuff I disagree with down the years.
Of course.
Like, but who fucking hasn't? But you're right. Like, I've always got time for someone that gets that this is as much an entertainment business as anything else. And having like narrative strands and arguments and flare-ups is all part of it. It's part of the rich fucking tapestry of our game and our sport, and it's what makes it engaging and interesting. There's no doubt Fallen understands that, a lot more than a lot of pros do. Where pros get genuinely hurt when they go fucking 0-4 in a fucking tournament, get bombed out when they're favourites to win it, and then somebody has the temerity on Twitter to go, well, they played shit. You don't know how hard we work. I don't give a fuck, motherfucker. I've seen you on that server. You were dog shit on that day when it mattered. So fuck off. That's it. You're going to get criticised. If you can't handle with that, like, sports of any kind is not for you. Like, I'm telling you.
No, the real joke is it's actually most pros who claim they don't care what people say, who are the ones who are the most sensitive and, as you say, react so ridiculously. Whereas actually, even though a fan might think Fallen is someone who's like, he's not at all. Like, here's the thing, Fallen's, put it this way, if I had to pick like top 10 players to have a beer with and talk about the game, he'd be in the top 10. He sounds fun for that sort of shit.
Yeah, he's a really, really, really cool guy, no doubt. So yeah, there's no point in banging on MIPR. I guess then the next one is probably Evil Geniuses.
Absolutely, they deserve a lot of fucking ire for the way they played in this tournament, mate.
Yeah, it just like really weird because I mean, listen, no disrespect to OG, I think they're still working through a lot of shit. If you're a top team, I see OG as being there for the taking. Absolutely,
they're vulnerable.
Yeah, and where EG have been, I mean, first of all, it was a fucking slobber knocker, the fucking series they had. What was it, like 90 fucking 6 rounds or something? It was a mad back and forth the first time.
All the maps that OG won against them were like max rounds or overtime. It was all like that the whole way through.
But then in the rematch, that's where it's like perplexing to me because to lose 2-1 the first time around, okay, you haven't really got the measure of them. You don't really know what they're up to. It was a super close series. But when you're EG, what you're supposed to be doing, if you're a Stanislaw, if you're all these experienced players, if you're this phenomenal talent, you're supposed to be able to like just take all that in, you look at what they're doing and think, right, next game we get them. Now, they nearly 16-0'd them on the first map, and when they had the rematch with OG. And you were like, okay, fucking hell, EG's back, they've got it, like, but then they just went to pieces. Like, the Mirage game is a fucking embarrassment. If you're a North American team with those fucking players, and you're picking Mirage, and it's a map that you're good on statistically, and you get banged out by OG on your pick when you're already ahead and you've just bodied them, like, something's not right there. And I can't put my finger on what it was, but like they went from being on top of the world, like screaming, high-fiving, doing all that stuff, and then they couldn't hit a fucking barn door on Mirage. And then on Inferno, you're still banking on EG. You're like, okay, they can just reset because now Inferno's coming up. You back the better team on Inferno. It's a pretty even and balanced map. So you just play the odds, and then Evil Geniuses threw away some silly rounds, crucially, and Stan even came out and put all of the blame on himself, which I think is like a great leadership thing to do, especially.
I
with
actually want to pick up on that though, because I kind of agree with him though. Like, listen, there's definitely.
Do you think that was an accurate assessment?
Put it this way, definitely all shouldn't be on him. Obviously, that's just like trying to be a fucking hero, isn't it? But like, obviously, certain players didn't play well, or maybe you picked the wrong map or something. But the one area, put it this way, I would say he is the primary offender in a lot of the games that I've seen EG lose over the last 5 months. And what I mean by that is this. Since his best strength, as far as I can tell, as an IGL, is like ability to make reads on the fly and pick up on read the opponent and get a sense for how they're moving around the map or what we could switch up now that would work. I feel like he over relies on that because in this series, particularly that last series against OG, the most underwhelming thing is all the T sides of EG, they were just rushing like noobs. They were literally just rushing over and over and over and over and over again. And at no point in time did he ever like slow it down or make a read of what was going. And it's almost like because he didn't have a feel for like why it wasn't working, he just kept doing what he was doing and just run it into the ground. And while they're doing all this, by the way, I remember there was a stat that came on screen where like EG hadn't taken like a single time out during like this entire half they'd been losing basically. And it's like, that's on now on the IGL and the coach. Like, what are you guys doing? Because one of the problems I see in their team is Stanislaus and IGL, I think, over relies. I've seen it with Happy back in the Envious days. Because what that took them to the top was this ability to read the map. When they don't have it, they live and die by it. They just let themselves die off that. They don't then go, right, it's not working. Take a step back. Is there something I can go to? What's my plan B in my playbook? All right, coach, what do we have that we can go with instead? They just run it to the ground, basically. And then that's on the coach as well, though, because their coach, to me, is a brilliant demo analyst. He's a guy where, in terms of studying the game, seems to do his job, always seems to have ideas, but he's not like an emotional leader of men. He's not a guy coming in, you're not playing well, you've got to pick. That's not even happening. So as a result, they're another team. They're in the same boat with Team Liquid in this sense, where a lot of the questionable issues come around the coach and the IGL. Are they doing their job? Because both these teams have mad player power. Look at the arsenals, the talent they've gotten. Yeah. Even in these series, Breeze would be going off. Cirque was having games that were bangers. The idea that you lose to the talent OG has when you're EG, 2 best of 3s that are, you have to put a lot of the blame on yourself. Like, he's right in that regard. Like OG, even on their best day, shouldn't have been able to beat you. They should just been able to make it a good game or something, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with
and
that.
No hate on Stanislaus or EG, by the way.
No, totally not.
Just these are the flaws in the game.
Yeah, I think as well, like it's worth pointing out that, you know, there is still a little bit of a balance issue. Like, I mean, it's such a fucking cliche, but I just feel that like when Evil Geniuses are fucking rolling, like, this is why they didn't take timeouts. You know, that was the other frustrating thing. Like, things were going wrong, and they had all these timeouts, and they weren't using them. They weren't trying to slow the game down or whatever. I kind of feel that it's like they keep thinking, we'll just do it again, and we'll just do it again, and we'll just keep running at the brick wall, and eventually it'll fall down. Well, you know, Counter-Strike, if you want to be a top team, you have to be way more fucking, you know, nuanced than that. You got to have all sorts of stuff going on. So it was just kind of like they were the masters of their own fucking downfall a little bit, I felt, in the OG series, especially the second one, when you get off to the ideal start, and you should have just fucking put OG in a fucking body bag and just tag them and fucking go on to the final. But yeah, crazy stuff there. The other team that had a shit one was Vitality. You know, they finished in the same spot that EG did, and they're going to the showdown as well. Of course, Vitality were also victims of the complexity surge, where, you know, Vitality were able to sort of, you know, kind of limp through. They beat Na'Vi on day one. So you're like, okay, that settles the ZWoo. I mean, there was some people, this settles it once and for all. ZWoo and Simple. It's been settled in this one best of 3 series. But then, of course, Na'Vi got him in the rematch and knocked him out after Complexity had beat them. So they kind of were disappointing there. But, of course, Na'Vi running on quantity. We weren't expecting Complexity to be this good. And it did give way to a hilarious interview. Now, I love interviews when people are just fucking raw and they just come out and they just say what's on their mind.
By the way, Blast Premier has been doing a great job with the loser interviews. I have to
loser interviews, yes. The idea that you can opt out of facing the public because you lost the game, grow the fuck up, CS players.
Especially if you get paid 20 grand a month, you fucking cunt.
No, but mate, right. think about real sports. There's nowhere to hide when you've had a bad game. There's nowhere to hide. Like at the end of the day, like CS players always talk about how adult our game is and how we're not like any other scene and we welcome trash talk. Don't go cry in the fucking dressing room then when you've lost, you little bitches. Get out in front of that fucking camera and talk to the fans. It's what we all have to do in other sports.
Think about how great that is. All you have to do in our game is one of you has to just go forwards and give some thoughts to the fans. As you say, the fans. In real sports, you have to sit for like a 45-minute press conference while these daft cunt journalists, half of them who are trying to stitch you up your entire career, are just asking you over and over again, so why did you trip over and score that own goal like 700 times?
Yeah, I know.
And you're just thinking the whole time.
When you realised you had lost, did you feel bad? Do you think the rumours of you having an extramarital affair?
What do you think you should have done? Should your boxing have been better? Or we're like, stuff like that over and over again.
No, but it's like in fucking the worst for that, by the way, the UFC press conferences. It's like they throw journalists in there who never even watched a fight in their fucking life, and they're asking questions. Like, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, so yeah, like Alex did say, or Complexity, you're just playing this like individualistic style, which the reason that is hilarious is that basically, let's be real, you all run around with flashbangs out and Ziwu kills people. That's your fucking entire team.
Vitality is just a flashbang cult where if they offer enough flashbangs, a god literally just destroys the enemy in the server, like Dr. Manhattan or something. And then you just sit back and go, that was me with the flashbang.
Yeah, that's who Ziwu actually is. Like he is Dr. Manhattan's new form. He's got a big blue penis. Like,
and they're all just fucking Night Owl or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, can't even get it up. Can't even get it up. But yeah, it's insane. Like that he would say something like that. So I think he was rightly mocked. But you shouldn't be dogpiling on him for speaking his mind, because we all know, right? You do get these teams that come together and it's a honeymoon period.
Oh, the problem is,
bang everyone out at LAN. Like Fury were doing
his overall sentiment, I actually agree with. Like, I would guess that Complexity won't do this in the next few months. They'll drop off. If they get good, they'll get good in a different way. Like, it did look like something that was like the joke I had was people like Poison and Obo looked like they had the almost like beginner's luck element of like not knowing that what they're doing shouldn't work. Like I said it on the broadcast, if Poison is really going to be as aggressive with some of these AWP picks and hit all of them like that, he's going to be a top 5 AWPer in the world. Now, who's going to jump on that bandwagon? Go ahead if you believe it. It's not impossible. He's got skills. I'm just saying that as of right now, if you run this through a few more times, I think you'll see a lot of these teams figure this squad out. And that's not even any hate, by the way. This is one of the things, by the way, why it was also a game changer to have the comms. I don't have to speculate like everyone else does on Reddit. I don't have to go, well, actually, he's wrong, because, Rush said they were doing loads of time. I heard the fucking calls they had. They were calling Pog shit. They were calling stuff like here's a Blade F tactic for you. You go long A, and then we're going to flash in from catwalk and go in. Like, you know that's not a tactic, right? There's no Astralis tactic that starts like that. There's no thing where they go, Zipnix, do you know that smoke for like? They don't do that in Astralis. I can tell you right now, I don't even need to know Danish to know they don't do that. So I heard all these comms, and what was great, by the way, was that I was amazed by the variety. Like, some teams would be better than you'd expect, some would be way worse. Like, give an example, Team Liquid, probably the worst pro comms I've ever heard. It was appalling. It was like a Pog again, same shit. So, like, the point is, this isn't a diss. If anything, the fact that they were calling very limited or simple playbook strats, that some of them had elements that were being worked on the fly, means even more props to the individual players. That means you did overperform. Yeah. Great. That means people like Rush, who actually had really good stats at the end of the tournament, were just banging. They were doing their fucking job. We don't have to put
but I think as well, right, you have to, people need to understand that it's like, not everything is about a fucking playbook with like, like how MSL does shit, where everyone's doing everything all at once in an exact mechanical way. CS, sometimes the best teams are floating,
of course.
And they don't, so I like the fact that Complexity went and were feeling it and just fucking played Pug style. Like, literally, you know what their team talk was before they even went to the event. They fucking said, we've got nothing to lose. Everyone's laughing at us. We can't even win an online fucking game. But we know we can play at LAN. We know we're fucking better than what those results show. And they're absolutely right, by the way, because online CS is a fucking shit show, especially online qualifiers where dubious fucking teams suddenly become world beaters and names that you've fucking forgotten about. Like, oh yeah, didn't he play in that dubious team that were accused of match fixing, then disappeared for 2 years? And now he's back and dropping fucking 35 against you in a fucking online qualifier for a big tournament where everyone's saying the anti-cheat might not be as great as you think it is. you fucking, that's just the swamp part of Counter-Strike. It don't mean shit. And
By the way, you
when
actually
Complexity
nailed.
getting their heads banged in, they should, give them a bit of leeway. It's online.
I think the guy you even referenced is actually the best example of this exact phenomenon that Alex just went through, is MSL. Because MSL's biggest problem in esports was that he just didn't understand like the concept of how talking to like the fans is different to talking to other people in the industry.
Yeah.
And what he would do was his faux pas were never even wrong. Like, I'll give you an example. Here's what would happen. He'd be at a tournament. North, when he was the IGL of them, would lose to a team that's way below their level. Afterwards, in an interview, he'd say something like, well, actually, I thought, the way they played wasn't that good. And, we should have beaten them on Mirage. And if we played them again, we'd come back on Cobblestone and win the series 2-1. And people would go, salty idiot, just admit that they were better. But what they wouldn't understand was, if you ever looked at the context, like, it would be a team that was worse. MSL might have even called like a good T side, but a couple of his players like fucked up an entry or lost a 1v1. At the end of the game, when he looks back on it, he'd go, actually, the way they played was a bit gimmicky on air there. Next time we played them, or if someone else played them, they wouldn't work there. And he's actually trying to give an honest answer. But the kind of person who's sitting there just waiting for him to say, and basically, unless he just sucks their dick, they're going to just call him salty. So you can't win in that scenario. So the problem is, it's like, this is why I thought the reaction was good and bad. Like, I like that so many people said, even if they don't agree with Alex's statement, like they want people to be able to say these things publicly. I agree with that sentiment. Like, let's allow our players to give us interesting answers. Because if they have to all give us the PR answer, like I tell you what, a way worse answer for me would be if Alex came out and said, yeah, you know what? Complexity. I mean, we were fifth best team in the world. They're probably just the fourth best team in the world now. The way they beat us was incredible. Never seen anything like that. My players, Ewu, even couldn't fuck with them, so they're probably got the best player in the world for the year as well. And congrats to them. Congrats to their organization, their families and loved ones. And that's it from us. So yeah, we're off. Like, that's a garbage answer. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear some political bullshit. You want him to say that he thinks it wasn't legit or give a reason why. Now, I get why you might think he was salty. There was probably some salt in it. But I also thought what he said was somewhat legit.
Who gives a fuck? You should be salty after you fucking lose.
Yeah, of course. I would want you to be.
People are fucking dumb. People are so dumb. They go, we love our fucking trash talk. We love our energetic esports. We love our rivalries. Well, good. Keep banging on every player that fucking gets angry when they lose. And let's see what sanitized bullshit. Go watch the fucking Overwatch League, you fucking punk motherfuckers. Banging on players for being honest and then complaining that our fucking league's boring. It's fucking pathetic. Like, there's an esport for you. It's called Overwatch. No one says anything bad. It's all hugs and kisses. You can go 0-40 in a season and everyone says, nearly had that game. Get them next time, Tigers. Like, it's fucking children's sports day. Go watch that.
By the way,
let the fucking grown-ups fucking have our grown-up esports.
I wanted to know what you think of this, because obviously you live in America. Is it like more of an American phenomenon? Because I also noticed the area in esports where I find this the most, like the fake angle that I hate, is actually the LCS, which is obviously the American League of Legends League for people who don't know, where in that league, right, I'm always considered a villain because I've actually like criticized Cloud9's LCS team for a number of years because they would always be second best and then just lose to whoever the best was. And all the fans and even the players at Cloud9 would be like, well, better luck, you'll get him next time. Yeah, second place is pretty good. And I would always be like, 'cause you know the way I am, I'm a pretty extreme person. I would always be like, that sucks though. Like, to be second is actually the worst place in the world because it means you had a shot at number one. You never made it. You didn't do it. Like, to me, you should be the most tortured person in the tournament. You should be feeling worse than the guy in 10th place. You should be like, fuck, I blew another. It's like there's a great Jose Mourinho quote that says, finals are for winning, not playing in. Like, if you're the guy, like, yeah, but I was in 4 final. I lost them all, of course, but 4 final. It's like, no, that's a shit story. Even the guy who's like, I was in 1 final, but I won it. That's 10 times the story.
Put it this way.
You've got to have that mentality.
The time to look back, right, on all the finals you played in and all the deep runs you had in tournaments and all the bronze medals and silver medals is like long when you're retired. If you're thinking about that shit now, and wearing a fucking silver fucking star second place runner-up badge with any honor and pride at all while you're still a competitive player, go fuck yourself. Like, that's my attitude. Like, at the end of the day, not everyone can win, but you should be striving to win. You should always be striving. There should never be fifth, like, not for a player, for fans, for everybody else. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like, you should understand where your team really is in the league. But you should want your players to want to be first. You should want your players to want to strive to win every game they go into. And you as a player owe that to yourself. Because, again, this time is fucking short. This time is fleeting. Your esports career is like that. And depending on what fucking game you play in, it's not even a full fucking click. It's gone before the fucking finger leaves the thumb. So, like, think about League of Legends. 2 patches later, you're a fucking burnout. You can't hack it. You're retired at 24. That was it, baby. That was all the fucking time you got. And you're going to fucking sit around and go, well, yeah, I did get to that semi-final once. That should fucking haunt you. That should fucking haunt you. Because why didn't you get to the final? Why didn't you have a chance at the big prize? So, yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't say it's an American phenomenon, honestly. I think actually a lot of sports in America are set up so because every game becomes its own kind of like super isolated, important, kind of cup final moment. People do, and we have like a democratization in like the NFL and the NBA with drafting systems and stuff. People do want you to fucking aspire to greatness. They do want you to go out there and win trophies and fucking try to win championships and build a franchise and build a dynasty. They want all of that. I don't know why it hasn't translated to NA esports where everyone's a fucking pussy and just wants to sit around and go, don't say anything bad about the team that should have won, was the favourite right from the get-go, got to the final and shit the bed because nerves got to them. Fucking obviously bang on those people.
Obviously. I want Alex to be salty that he thought, I'm just playing complexity for a spot in the finals. Good, that's easy. Going to win this game, aren't I? I want him to be salty. He got 2-0, of course. He should be salty.
It's why I love people like Forgiven. It's why like the people are like, the people I'm really willing to fuck with and just hang out with are all the people that fucking, actually do fucking give a fuck about that stuff, that do want first place, that do want trophies, that understand that the time, you can transition and do other shit later. You can look at all the medals. You can say, I never got the big one and laugh about it and have a drink when you're fucking 40, 50, and all of this is gone. But if you're competing right now, like if you don't want to win everything, like I think you're playing esports all wrong. I think you're doing it all wrong. I think unlike a lot of sports, like you don't get injured in esports, you just get burned out, or the game changes, or the whole fucking game dies. And that was it. That was your window. It's like it's crazy, So yeah, I don't know if it's an American phenomenon, but honestly, I do think it's weird that like people are like, yeah, go get him. Like it's like it's not. If you want to be seen as a sport, you have to be a competitor like you get in real sports. You have to fucking dig deep. And again, it ties in with what I said earlier. There's criticism for when you fail, and it's fair and it's valid, and it feels shit, but you should feel shit for failing. It's okay to fail. Failure is a part of success, but it should feel bad at the time. It's just then what you do afterwards. That's what I don't understand. Like with a lot of esports people, man, they don't tie the experience together. It's like a loss is just a bad thing that happens. Losing a final is just a bad thing that happens. Criticism online is just a bad thing that happens. I'll tweet something for some sympathy and people will leave me alone. And then I go in and I practice the next day. Like, where's the holistic experience? Like, what are you learning from each of the losses? What are you learning from the bad times? How are you improving? What are you going to do differently? Like, I don't think people think that fucking deep about it. I think they just turn up on the server the next day and go, right, guys, back to scrimming, and they just forget all about it. And I think that's a shame. All right, back to the Blast tournament. Let's talk about the teams that did well. Obviously, we'll talk a little bit about OG. To who do you attribute their shock success? Do you think this is like a team effort? Do you think this team's valid now and deserves respect? Do you think they've punched above their weight? Do you think this completely fucking validates Alexi B as one of the greatest in-game leaders that we've got currently in Counter-Strike?
Yeah, I'll start with the last part because that basically is the long and short of it. Again, because thankfully I'm in a privileged position where I could literally hear the calls that they were making. And remember, the best thing about Group D is every team in that group spoke English. Obviously, when there were groups that were like Astrala split, I can't actually know what they're saying. I don't have anyone around. I mean, I guess I could, in theory, get someone to ask it, translate Danish, but it'd be pretty ridiculous to do it live. Obviously, if it's French, like Semler could listen. There's a number of the teams we could understand the comms of. Group D, luckily, every team I could understand. And I have to say that if I gave a basic summary of OG, It's that the Man 2 guy is thus far the revelation of 2020. Because I know from internally within the team, I know some of the people in that squad, he wasn't even at the beginning of the shortlist of people they were trying to get for those star players.
He wasn't even the third pick.
No, he wasn't. Like, he was the guy where when all the other names didn't work out, some of them including the Poisons of the world.
They wanted, they wanted Poison.
And just find it.
Jampy.
There we go. Yeah. They had to go and just literally go, who is even available right now? I mean, if people can't figure this out, the reason it took so long for that rumored roster of like it's going to be Valde and Alexi B and NBK, that was literally a rumor. Like as soon as NBK was kicked from the major, basically, that was already a rumor.
Yeah.
The reason it took so long, even for those players to be signed, is because of the buyouts and then trying to finagle those to be lower. So I personally get the sense that OG isn't a team with a massive checkbook, that they just got some big names and then they've had to gamble on these other ones. So the fact that Issa and Mantu ended up there, that was just a gamble on their part. So the Mantu angle, what an insane pickup that's been. Like, you couldn't ask for it to be better at this tournament. He basically played great.
Let's hope he doesn't go the same way as Smooth.
Sure. He's basically played good every game. He looked really awesome. Again, the idea that he would be as good at this level, when bearing in mind where he's coming from, is ridiculous. Like, no, there's a lot of teams probably passed on this guy and are wondering why now. Then you go to an established name, Valde, individually in the game, looking great, saying in interviews before the tournament that he's trying to not be a voice in the shot calling, he's trying to just be a player, and it fucking looked awesome. He looked like it was North Valde back again, polished all-around game. But the thing is, none of it would be possible without Alexi B. From listening to his comms, almost every time they won a map against EG, which they obviously did 4 times here, it would go like this. They would be losing the map. Sometimes we even were able to show this on the broadcast. Sometimes the problem was that the others that have been IGLs, like NBK and Valde, would be talking too much. They'd be trying to like pipe up with shit like, well, I could do this right now. Well, I've got a spawn to do this though. Yeah, but can I do that? And Alexi B, literally, we played this on the broadcast, at certain times would have to say, guys, you have to let me talk. Like, just shut up a second. Like, and then when he got his time to call, like, he called some unreal T-halves to get them back into some of these games where like, literally, when you were listening to the comms, he was playing like he had wall hack on some of the on sites. Like, he would just know. I think I heard a guy could be in the site. We're going to molly this position. Then we're going to kill that. Like, some of his calls were straight fire, and they really were. Like, some of them were playbook stuff. Some of them were just coming up with on the fly. Like, right, this worked last time, so let's hit it again here. And his adaptations, literally, the rounds they were winning versus the rounds they were losing were sometimes just on his calls. So I'm just convinced. Like, I already thought just from process of elimination, is it possible he could have been as shit on Ents as they're making out and as surplus to require? It already didn't make sense. Like, I think I've said it on this show. If he was the one guy who was the IGL of an elite team in the world and it turns out he was shit, it'd be like an outlier. I've never heard of that in World Counter-Strike history. After listening to this, I now really I think genuinely there is rot within the team events. Whatever convinced them at certain decision-making points to get rid of this guy, they are out of their motherfucking minds. They will never get an IGL like this. Like, this guy is legit as fuck.
Was there any conflict? Because it's not just Valde who's come from being an IGL. Obviously, MBK's done it, and I think at some point was kind of doing it in OG. Didn't they say he was like calling some T-sides or something?
Basically, the issue was this. I don't think it was conflict in the sense that like MBK thinks he knows better or whatever. I just get the sense. In fact, I'll even put it like this. Think about it politically, right? So Alexi B is kicked out of his team. And I'll even say, I won't go into details, he sort of alluded to some of it himself. Basically, was also bad-mouthed around the industry by his former teammates. Absolutely. And so as a result, had literally better opportunities that didn't even go, just because these cunts decided to fuck with this guy, even though as far as I can tell, he's never done anything even that's fucked up enough to deserve this. He just played in a way they didn't like. So when they've gone and done this, right, even though to me, obviously you should be taking Alexi B and saying, right, well, I'm going to give you your full chance. You're the IGL and we'll see what goes from there. I would imagine coming into this team where MBK wanted to be the IGL in Vitality and there was conflict there and got kicked out. Valde was the IGL of North. It's just that these guys coming from where they're from think, right, well, I've had ideas recently about IGLing and, you know, like, why don't we do it by committee? Why don't we all give our thoughts in the game and we'll see how it plays out? It's just that as far as I can tell, was the not very effective OG, and doing it by committee wasn't a great approach.
You can't do that. Like, let's just be real about Counter-Strike. Like, there's just no fucking room for that. It's a five-man fucking game. Like,
you have very limited time in spawn and everything. Yeah, exactly. You need. Here's the thing.
You one voice, one vision. Get on board with it, or get the fuck out.
It's like I think of it like this. you can be a guy who adds in, like if the IGL's like, I'm out of ideas, and you're the secondary caller, or you're someone else who goes, you know what, I've got a thought. That's good, adding an idea in. But I'm with you. The vision of how the game's going to be played will only be coherent if it comes from one mind, in my opinion.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And listen, I've pushed MBK as being an in-game leader in the past. It's historically not worked. I think it's like he's a super intelligent guy. He understands the game. He's a very selfless player. He's obviously a very vocal proponent of the CSPPA. He's a super smart dude. But he shouldn't be an IGL, and he needs to kind of get out of that phase. Save that until much, 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 much further down the road. When you can barely hit a shot anymore, when you're absolutely garbage, then maybe do it. But yeah, I think Alexi B went into a bit of a pressure cooker environment. New team, 5 players, all brought from different backgrounds, different fucking languages, and he's got to fucking make it work. Now, the one thing, the reason I did think OG was going to be legit at some point was, first of all, I'm like you, I knew Alexi B was legit because what he did with Ents was fucking unfathomable to me. And he's got much better players to work with here at OG. If they get on board with the system, and I think they have the type of ego where they're not going to, they're just egotistical enough to fucking go out and style on the server like Valde, but also smart enough to realize Alexi B's in charge. I need to shut the fuck up, and I'm going to say so in interviews. I think they're going to do things. I think this is a very, very solid team, and I think while they might have punched above their weight by beating EG in 2 series, I think they're going to be like the kind of next mouse sports, if you like. I think they're going to.
It's also a team where, and this is no diss to them. Like, if you're a player in the team, just fucking suck it up. It's a team where what I think will happen is the core will be proven to have potential and be able to do things, and they'll make maybe one roster move, and that'll be enough. They'll get another good player in, and then you'll have a team that can be a real contender. Because I do think the core of it is there. Like, I think the foundation of the project makes sense. I'm just not a believer in certain players, or I don't think they can punch to the top 5 in the world level, or whatever,
Yeah. So let's talk about the other good ones, and then we'll wrap up the show because I'm conscious of time, and we still got questions. So we'll just do this quickly.
We'll do another one soon, by the way, guys, since we haven't done one for a few weeks. So we'll try and double up when we can.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we might be doing another one straight away tomorrow. So even though we didn't talk about Ice Pro Series or all of that stuff, we'll definitely do it. And also as well, I am worried, Duncan, because you've got about 50 fucking shows now. That
Sorry, I've got time.
I'm
back home, luckily.
Overworking you, but anyway, G2, obviously they came out, they were fucking legit.
That's a massive surprise in itself.
Yeah, I mean, but they were
I was
playing
ready
well.
to write that team off completely at the end of last year, mate.
I had a suspicion. I picked them in my fantasy. I had Nexa and Jax in my fantasy team.
I mean, right? Jax mad overperformed this time. He must have done well.
Yeah, and fucking Nexa fucking smashed it. So yeah, I did very, very well actually. Well, I say very well. My fatal flaw was I also fucking backed Evil Geniuses. So whatever. But G2 very, very impressive. Best of luck with this lineup. Starting to find that kind of rhythm. I still don't really know what Amanek does in this team.
Not much.
Yeah, but
seems
that
like
being said,
by far.
Yeah, that being said, he didn't play bad at this tournament. He actually did contribute in terms of his numbers. I mean, there were several maps where he even outfragged like Kenny S and stuff. So, obviously Kenny's an AWPer, so it's not an exact science. But yeah, I was very impressed with him. And I think that the series against G2, had a couple of again, it was a great series. There was a legit dominance on Inferno. A very close win on Nuke, which, historically they've been decent on that, but have had some problems closing out games. So, yeah, I think this is, super positive. I think, absolutely G2 have made the necessary improvements. The problem always is with these teams is fucking consistency.
Yes. Yeah, one of the problems is G2 was actually another team that had very messy comms. It was a lot of people just talking all the time. But like I said on the broadcast, I don't even know if that's necessarily a criticism because it seemed to work for them, believe it or not. I think maybe the fact that, remember, none of them are native English speakers, but they're all having to speak in English as the common language. I think maybe for their team, it was just helping them on basic things like map locations, what the teammates doing. So I think maybe for their team, it helped them to talk all the time. It might be a case because in the server, I would be hearing the comms be messy, but in the server, it was looking great. I will say a lot of it was off individual player. A lot of it really was. Kenny S was absolutely on fire. Looked like he was 4 years ago. Kenny S, Nexa was doing amazing. Hunter actually just chilled with like pretty good stats. Then in the final map, he went mental. So like almost every like check mark you want, if you want this lineup to be good, was hit. So I do also feel like this is probably the top end of their performance curve. I don't know how consistent it can be, because if you rely on individual players are by their very nature inconsistent, or they're simple and zero. That's basically the way the game works at the moment in CS. The game almost plays against being able to drop 30 every time. So I would say with their team, I think the positive is the amount of maps that they looked good on, the fact that they were 2-0 people, the fact that when they were front running, they were smashing teams. That's massively positive. So it makes me feel like if they hit a good stride at a big tournament, they could make a big place and they could maybe make like a top 4, could have a massive run. The problem is, I feel like if you put them against a wide range of opponents and they play out all the maps, I think they're not going to be as bad as they were before, but I'm skeptical they're going to be better than, say, like the 9th best team still. Like, I'm not actually like riding the hype much beyond this. Like, I thought this was an amazing performance, but even then I temper it a little bit.
And I'll give a shout out to Malik as well, because, you know, he's a guy that like...
Seemed like he was very integral to what they were doing, yeah.
Yeah, listen, he's a fucking dude who doesn't get the credit he deserves, because obviously, like, there was a period of time where basically... You know, I've talked about it before on the show that he was like prepping the teams and happy you'd just go like, yeah, that's great. Fuck you. You know, it was just...
By the way, I can even give you a piece of insight on that, which is, as far as I know, one of the reasons why this team, even though they played all those months, remember, it was not long after the major they made this lineup, that even though they've played all these months and all these tournaments, the reason why now they look like twice as good as they ever did before is supposedly because he swapped around some of people's roles and what they were doing on the map, etc. So it's basically similar to the Mouse Sports story, because obviously what made Mouse Sports run crazy is that they'd had all this time where they had the same lineup. Whereas now, making a few role changes or the coach seeing something that the player doesn't, that little tweak can really turn everything around. Like, we're almost reaching the point now, if you notice, with coaches, where it's like football managers, because for Americans, by the way, we just call coaches managers in football, right? But in football, the weird thing is, it's a very, very long tradition that you can have a manager fired because the team's losing. You bring in the new manager. You don't change a single fucking player, and he has the players play twice as good. And you think, how does he do it? He's not sitting down and hypnotizing him. He's figuring out something like, this guy's role wasn't done well. This guy had too many minutes. He wasn't using this sub properly. You know, they just take what's already there and rejig it, as it were. So Malik seems like someone who, as far as I know from the stories within this team, even go back to the Shocks lineup, that's the thing he's been constantly doing. That's why the teams sometimes have their little resurgence and then fall down again. Like, he's trying to figure out with what he has how he can make it better, which is
like
admirable quality.
Low key, he's like another Kassad, like, and I, in the sense that, you know, I just don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. And I've known him a long, long time. But and he's put up with some of the biggest egos, and not just the biggest egos in the game. Like, I mean, French CS egos, they're colossal. Like, they're like nothing else. And he's managed to achieve great things. So, and get people on board with his system. So, you know, mad respect to him, mad props. The last thing we'll talk about from the Blast, FaZe. Obviously, you'll have to cast your minds back to the very first week, back into the end of January, when FaZe rolled into town, had a perfect run, didn't drop a map. They, you know, beat NIP. I think we all expected them to do that. They then played Liquid. This is where it gets interesting. They play Liquid on Dust 2. It's 16-12. They go on to Inferno. FaZe absolutely dominate Liquid 16-5. It was Liquid's pick. People couldn't believe it, but everyone was like, oh, Nitro's had a bit of a nightmare. Naf was off. You know, it's fine. They'll get him in the rematch. And lo and behold, it was set up. You know, Liquid made short work of NIP, and then they got the rematch. And we were all like, okay, this will be the game. Well, actually, this was more one-sided towards FaZe, including FaZe picked Dust 2, a map they'd already played them on, and then bodied them 16-2. And during that time, again, Naf was off, Elise was off. Like, nobody fragged at all for Team Liquid. You could see visibly Stewie was getting fucking angry, doing his, Stewie's one of those players that reminds me a lot of Shocks, that when things aren't going right, he's the guy who thinks in his mind, I've got to win this game. And then he starts making wilder and wilder plays. And if they don't work, it's like he really
Yeah.
becomes insular.
Absolutely.
And
It's like the intention is good, but it's sometimes the way it expresses itself can actually fuck the game up worse. Yeah, you're right. They both do that. They both they push the pedal too far sometimes.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I totally understand it because, just to give people
I'd rather that than the guy just rolls over and does nothing. I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like in any sports, right? And what any sports coach will tell you is like the old idiom is, when you're winning, be consistent, stay consistent, keep doing what you're doing. When you're losing, create chaos, do something unexpected, do something wild, try and throw your opponent off their game, try something they couldn't possibly anticipate. So the principle's fine. It's just what it leads to. If it doesn't work, if the chaos you create is actually antithetical to what you need to do to get back in the game, it makes the results more lopsided, more one-sided. So really, I was really surprised by this. I thought Liquid were going to give FaZe a game. Now, am I going to believe that FaZe are as good as what they showed here? No, I don't buy it for a second. My gut feeling with this FaZe is we're not entering a new era where FaZe are genuine contenders for the world. Like, the thing people aren't talking about is Olofmeister still isn't looking great. He still looks a shadow of the player that we know he can be. And I just think with all the egos in the team, we all know who. I think they're one like bad game, bad run, bad result, bad map, one argument away from complete collapse. But I don't know if you agree with that. But this FaZe, this is like unthinkably good.
Yeah, this is basically what you dreamed it would be like when you heard Nico and Cold Zero play together. It's like, wow, imagine if they both could be really good at the same time, and then you have a super sick team. It did happen at this tournament. I'm also totally with you. I don't buy the idea that they're going to be like a world contender. I will say they were actually the first team that, listening to the comms, gave me a different perspective on, just because we noticed very early on, even on the CT side, like Cold Zero had way more input than you would have expected, which, as far as I know from talking to him and the rest of the team, was not the case in the past. I guess because they were just integrating him to the side, just moved over. They did it last minute, if you remember, before you saw New York, so they probably didn't have any time to boot camp. So it seems like they're more committed to the idea now that the IGLing is like Nico, and then Cold Zero has his input. So it's two people instead of just Nico. That's already a massive positive. If it's just Nico, I'm out on him as a team. I'm just not convinced by him as an IGL. He's just too good as a player and it wastes his talent. So I think you saw this tournament as well. Like, he went supernova in terms of individual ability. So I'd imagine it probably helped sharing the load a bit. But the other reason to tie it in as to why I don't buy it as an overall approach is too many players played well in a way that I don't think you can do consistently. Like, for example, when they put Brocky onto the AWP on most maps, like, yeah, he had amazing numbers. That doesn't seem consistent. Like that, he seems like a decent enough player, but I feel like almost everything went right for them in this tournament. So I will say they look just like G2. They're better than I thought they could be. I was writing them off as a project similar to G2. I just also am not going to take one tournament and then go, right, forget everything I knew. They're the new shit. It's like, no, they probably shouldn't be. This team, I mean, with this caliber of player, yeah, you should be able to contend for top 5. You're not going to be the number 1 team with this team, though.
Do you think, just as a final thought on the Blast, do you think we're getting closer to a reality where Team Liquid are going to make the knee-jerk roster change?
I do think that this tournament was like step 1 on, I mean, well, maybe it's step 2. Step 1 was not winning any tournaments after the major. That already is going to be in the back of your mind. Not beating Astralis after the major, that's going to be 1. This is step 3 then, let's say, along the path to either a roster move or you blow the whole project up entirely. Because at the end of the day, when you were the team that won everything, all the championships, were supposed to win the major, you're supposed to have your era, everyone's on fire. When you then don't win any tournaments, when you then lose to your rival every time, when you now bomb a tournament completely, not entirely, like I said, they still got to the finals, but the way they lost, they may as well have bombed it. Like the one team that mattered in the group, they got dusted off by, like you say, twice, 2-0. Eventually, something has to break, because like we were saying with the Alex example, you don't want these guys to go, well, you know what, boys, we're all still sick at the game, and it is a pretty good team we're in. And you know what, we have come top 2 a lot, even if we didn't win. No, a team like that has to think, what do we do to be number 1? And eventually, roster move has to enter the equation. I will say, before they do that, I would hope they'd consider like maybe a coach change. I think that would be an obvious thing to do. Give someone else a try with these pieces.
Yeah.
You've got such a crazy roster. I would hate to get rid of this roster and then find out the next one isn't as good. So I personally would give this one last go, but that's why I say maybe a different coach.
I still honestly think this is a team that can be the best in the world.
I do as well.
I just look at that roster and think you don't even need to be at 100%. Like, if those 5 players turn up and play 70% of their ability, they can be number 1, number 2. It depends what Astralis are doing, right? But so yeah, maybe it's a coaching thing. I don't know enough about Adrian. I don't really have any insight into what he's been doing with the team, but you know, there's something not right there. They go to pieces. Like, for starters, show me some fucking fight. Show me some fucking guts. Show me, like, you know, when they start losing, they let the opponents fucking just run over them like a fucking freight train. It's like they're too embarrassed to be on the fucking server sometimes. It's like, guys, like, you do realize that while the game is going, you have a chance to win. You know, you can't just get off and like run back and be like, oh yeah, we'll get him next time. No, fuck that mindset, dude. Like, I think while it hasn't worked out for Stewie and he's definitely been having some like performance issues, he's got the right idea. Like, and maybe it's other teammates are playing it safe and being a little bit like, you know, because Nitro had some fucking shockers. He had some shocking maps at this tournament, and it's like, listen, that's the guy you're taking your cues from. We were all singing his praises like a month or 2 ago at the end of 2019. We're all singing his praises, saying how good he is, how he's coming up clutch, how he's doing all these incredible shots. You know, like, someone's got to give. Like, these guys have got to really fucking dig deep and find something. And yeah, maybe a coach change does it for them, but I think they've got a deeper problem than that. You know?
Oh, I agree. I think in terms of like mentality in the team, that's probably the biggest thing. I don't think it's about skill at all. Like, they have a fucking amazing roster. Like, that's why I say, to me, the reason I'd do a coach change is because I would want to give this lineup one more chance. Like, you'll never hear it. Here's a statement I think will hold true forever in CSGO. Yeah. Nobody else in CSGO history who has an all-NA lineup will ever make a lineup like this again. This lineup is fucking unbelievable. Look at the players they have. Every player on this team was a star player of a different team. It's unbelievable. And it's not like it's not like the FaZe lineup where we're like, but if it all went well, it did go well. There was a period in time where I even found a stat that was better than the one. You know, the stat where they won the 22 series in a row? That sounds unreal as it is, right? Yeah, it's actually better than that, because if you take, like, what happened was from the start of winning IEM Sydney to when it was right up until they lost to Astralis at the major, the only actual series loss they had was that final to like Vitality at the Summit, right? So if you just include one loss, they went something like 31 out of 32 series won. You know, everyone else in history can just suck a dick. Like, even Nip probably never did that. Like, that is unthinkable levels of like excellence and consistency. So if your team could do that, are you really all going to tell me that Astralis going to Blast is the reason they can't do that anymore? No, something happened to this team. Yeah, Astralis got better, but that was parallel to something happening to this team. The way they think about the game, the way certain players think of what their role is. Like you're saying, what do they do when they're facing hard times? Yeah, they used to just frag everyone's head off before, but there's got to be another gear to it. There's got to be a way that you can play when you're not hitting your shots, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I hope they find it, man. Be a shame if, like, that little brief moment in time where they were so good to watch and just so good at the game, that's like all we get and all NA's gonna get, because EG ain't flying the flag particularly well at the moment either. Exactly. So yeah, they gotta get their shit together. Right, let's move on to our patron questions. These are our $50 and above patrons. Get to ask a question that shapes the show. It can be about anything. It usually is about anything. We're gonna read through them now and then wrap up the podcast. So we've got J-Dubs. What team outside the top 10 or even top 20 do you think will hit top 5 sometime this year? Fucking hell.
Right, well, now we have to go and look up.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I am looking at the HLTV ranking because I'm not a corporate shill. That's just a joke. Don't get mad at me, Thorin. Don't start tweeting. Richard is another word for dick, and Richard is a dick, and that's all there is to it. And just do a little video prompting a Reddit thread about how, look at him, he's even turning on his own friends. He's even turning, he's a traitor. He's got no honor. Like, can't wait to read it. Anyway, everyone's a fucking idiot.
Who are you going to pick then?
So let's have a look at the top 10. I mean, listen, Mad Lion's already knocking on the fucking door. And I think they can legit leapfrog Ents and 100 things.
Oh, Mad Lions looks amazing, don't they?
Yeah, legit. Like, Forza for me are too inconsistent. I know they're ranked 13th. Everybody's loving them right now. They're going down. Their stock is going down, according to Richard Lewis. They're 100% going to drop off. I already said I think OG can be another mouse sports. So I don't think Mad Lions got top 5 potential. I think OG can do it. And then, listen, we don't even know if Complexity are the truth yet, do we?
No. The other team for me I would pick is, even though they looked shit at Blast, the actual like talent base of NIP, bearing in mind Threat has now taken over as the coach and has time to work with them. And in theory, they're all moldable. There's talent there. Like I could see a world in which they could creep in the top 10. That's definitely not impossible. I have a lot of faith in Threat as a coach. And I think the other one I'd probably pick is just based on how they looked at that DreamHack Leipzig. I don't think it's impossible. The big lineup could be pretty good, actually. Like the players they've put together. I know they're
Came
not
out
big
of
names,
nowhere, didn't they?
These are the right names from the German scene. Like they actually now look like they fit the roles. So all we're talking about is just knocking on, just getting into the top 10. It's doable. I know it seems tough now, but if the whole point is I'm not just going to pick the guy who's number 11. I'm going to have to take a flyer on someone. So I'll say those.
Yeah, no. Listen as well, like if North had just like
I'd love to believe that North lineup could. I would.
No, I know, but mate, I'm a fucking idiot.
I feel like they won't help.
I picked Izzy and Kirby for my fucking fantasy for fucking DreamHack at Anaheim again. I always put Kirby and Izzy in my fucking team when North are playing at one of those tier 2 tournaments, thinking they're gonna do things, and it's like I don't know. I've got a mental block when it comes to them. Like,
put it this way, anyway, in terms of the names, it's not impossible they could do it. It's just that like these are all recycled names, so I have to see it before I can believe that one now. You're not going to fool me twice, MSL.
No.
He said for the 58th time.
For the 58th. I promise I won't come in your mouth this time. All right. Anyway, Jerky's Minion says, "What is the worst bet you ever made that went bad or could have gone wrong?" Now, I'm not a gambler.
Went bad.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I haven't died or anything, have I? So what's he talking about?
We've done some forfeits. What was that one? The VP phase one, wasn't it?
But you never did that one technically.
Yeah, we just never did the format. We had forfeit.
That was where you were supposed to like write on your face something. I can't remember what it was.
Do fucking based. What is it? Fucking
based, something like that. Exactly.
Lil B or whatever the fuck on my forehead. Based Norin. But anyway, no, I don't know. Like it was.
I can tell you, but it's not. Here's the thing: it's not a CS score story, but it is funny, I guess, because this just shows one of the only times I ever let someone actually vaguely like outmaneuver me. So when I was doing a talk show, it's called Listen Loco. Dead now, of course, because I literally killed him because I just got so pissed off with the guy. I just literally told him to go.
Yeah, but you're a fucking glutton for your mental. You are fucking mentally fucked, you fucking have a breakdown on air, right? Storm out of the show, kill the whole podcast, right? Saying it's not a bit. Yeah, it's like I'm definitely really fucked off. Yeah. And then I just saw you tweet out the other day. Happy birthday, Loco. Can't wait to do another show with you. I'm like, who is this
episode, obviously. Not like
but why would you even do that? Why would you even do that, you fucking wreckhead?
Because enough time's gone. I'd allowed myself to see him.
Hell, man.
He was all right, that Loco. Anyway, but no, what happened was on this show, because obviously, like actually, that's apropos of what was happening. Because on the show, sometimes I would think of something that like was a detail about the show or something about the way he was talking. And yeah, in a world that was different, you might go, right, just write it down, have that discussion with Let's. Like, you're not going to remember that. Like, no one watches all these shows backwards on them. We're recording hours and hours of content. So, because it's going to be gone in the moment, I said to him on one of these shows, because he made some sort of stupid comment like, why don't you just sort of tone it down a bit? Then maybe Riot would let you on their broadcast. And obviously I was like, first of all, why the fuck would I want to be on Riot's broadcast? You stupid idiot. That's your goal, not mine. And secondly, how would me toning it down get me on that broadcast? Like the whole point is I'm not on their broadcast, so I do what I want. If they wanted to be on their broadcast, they make me a deal like tone it down, wouldn't they? Like you're living in some cocked world where doing what they want when they haven't even made you an offer gets you what they want. So I said to him as a way to make the point that like he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, is I said something along the lines of like, you know, at the end of this year, I'll show you my bank account and then you can just shut the fuck up giving me any advice about my career ever again. And so because I basically flexed on him, later in this episode, or maybe in the next episode, we had that girl on from Korea, Ashley Kang, who does all the interviews over there, right?
Yeah.
And then she was talking about like one of the teams that was like a borderline like playoff team, and she was like going, "Oh, I think they'll be quite good." And I was like, "Nah, there's no way they will. They won't even make the playoffs." And then Loco goes like, "You should have a bet with her." Like just brings it up, right? And then
Of course he does.
And then also because he's obviously trying to be all fucking like, love women and that, he just goes, "Tell you what, Thorin, since you were talking about all the money you have, if she wins the bet, you should have to pay her ticket to any event around the world." And because in that moment, I didn't think to just go, "Nah, not doing it."
I didn't think to say no.
No, because in the moment I thought he's not wrong. I have got the money. I could piss that 700 euros up against a wall, do nothing with it, tear a ticket up with. So anyway, I just decided, yeah. And also I thought I was going to win the bet. So I was like, yeah, fuck it. And then this is the dumbest part of it is because she doesn't have that money. I couldn't make the bet that I'll win a free flight. If I won, I was just going to get some shit tweet that I was like, "Yeah, you're right, Thorin," or whatever. So anyway, moral of the story is that fucking team had to make the playoffs, didn't they? So I had to actually buy her a ticket to Worlds. All because stupid Loco Doco suggested it, and I didn't just shoot it down instantly because he got to me. It's the only person who's ever got to me on like the angle of ego. It's like he just inflamed it in the right way. Where I was like, don't tell me to not make that bet.
As if your fucking nemesis is Loco.
Just on that one time, he got his in the
only one who
he got his
your fucking head.
It all worked out
of all the people. Jesus,
you have to understand it really emotionally hurt him when that show died. So it all came back in a minute.
No, mate, he did actually hit me up. He was going, "Can you smooth things over with Thorin?" I was like, "Fucking element, another marriage counselor again." I've done it for fucking ESL and Thorin, always fixing the fucking stuff. It's ridiculous. Anyway, hope that answers your question, Jerky. I don't have a story anywhere near as good as that. Sun-Made Raisins, when did you notice an influx of skilled employees getting involved at esports events who have had no previous involvement with esports, camera crew, makeup artists, etc.?
Oh, right. Okay.
Tough one, really. I mean, you have to understand, I don't even know, this sounds awful, I don't even know if it's happened yet, in the sense that the people that I see at events, and I obviously haven't done an event in 2019, that's not true. I did some at the start. And yeah, actually, the people we worked with at WSOE, they were like people who directed Super Bowls and stuff. So, I guess now is what I would say. Like but then again, I go to a lot of events where everyone, them, they've been in esports a while. It's not new to them.
Yeah, I wouldn't even make it a year distinction. I would just say it depends on what company and where they're based. Because like you just said at the end, you nailed it there. If you go to an ESL event, most of the people there are like lifelong ESL people. They've been in ESL for 10 years or they've done the events going back. So the whole point is, it's not that you don't have access. It's that actually that person's more qualified because he's worked in esports. What it tends to be for me is if you're doing an event that's in like LA, for example, where obviously there's a bazillion people in that industry, the movie and the television industry, who need work. Yeah, you'll get people who are camera operators, a guy who's doing whatever. Even the person scheduling the event might actually just be someone who's doing it freelance. And then the other angle is, if you're doing the big leagues like LCS or Overwatch League, you'll see a lot of those people. But that's also because now esports is actually starting to hit like the point where sports and TV and media is coming down and esports is going up. And now people are, no joke, actually doing the career jump because they think it's better to be in esports. Like you're actually seeing, even on the exec level, you see fuckers leave like the NFL or whatever and come to like ESL. And you think like, do you actually know what you're doing? But the whole point is they're like, you don't know the fucking burning room I'm jumping out of, mate. Like, that's the difference. We don't know their world. So it more feels like just like happenstance as to which companies it's with. I don't feel like it's a general like drift entirely. I think it's more like newer companies or companies based in the spots where these people already are. It's just another job on the market and some of them take it.
Yeah. There's another question here from Pounder 420, just a statement for you specifically. He says, don't really have a question to ask, but I just want to say I'm on the real grind to quit smoking, and the speech you made at the blast gave me a kick in the ass that I needed. 4 more weeks and then I will tackle my true demon, alcohol. He's a fucking mighty foe, let me tell you. He's waiting for you at the end of the tunnel. He is worse than Loco Doco is for Thorin. We've all got our demons, son. Good luck with it. Jai says, could tournament organizers based custom maps like the 1.6 CPL maps ever make a return to CS, or is the scene forever cock and ball tortured by Valve on the matter of map pool? I mean, again, Valve only implement direct control over the majors and the minors for now, right? For me, I just don't think it's ever been worthwhile for a TO to create their own map and implement it into their tournaments, because first of all, the benefit, that the value is it's only played in your tournaments. It'll probably just get banned and vetoed by players anyway, so you'll hardly see the fucking thing because there's no impetus to learn it because they're not playing it on all the other tournament circuits. So that's basically, and equally as well, you know yourself, communities, CS especially, hate fucking change. They don't want they say they're bored of the maps, but then they don't want new maps. And this is why, like, how CS hasn't stagnated, I'll never know.
It is crazy, I agree.
Yeah. Because the
thing that's mad to me is this. In the same way as League of Legends that you play today is nothing like it was 7 years ago, because even though some of the heroes are the same name, they've changed, they've reworked it all. Basically, heroes is how they call it champions in that game. So I'm going daughter on that one. Champions is basically how you balance League of Legends. If you change the champions, it feels like a different game, even though it's the exact same fucking map for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
The point is, in CS, maps are supposed to be like that for us. We just don't actually exercise that aspect of the variability. Like if we actually did have all these maps being developed and we changed a couple in every year, we could have an incredible scene in that sense. Now, here's the thing. An old fuck like me, I think of the maps like I think of the NFL field. Like it's just a field, isn't it? I don't bother thinking why is just two not differently. I don't care about that. I like to just see it played over and over again. I'm a niche individual in that sense, but I actually almost do think that is like the last frontier for CS. If we ever somehow crack it and we can have like a proper cycle of a map pool and new maps developed and maps that explore different elements of the game, obviously things like Overpass showed us that verticality can totally change the way a game's played out versus a DOS 2 that generally feels like it's on the same level. You know, like there's all sorts of elements you could explore that actually maybe could be the secret to making CS bigger. Maybe that's how CS becomes the #1 game in the world. Because that's the one area I do feel like there'll always be a semi-hardcore requirement to enjoy CS, is if you are just playing the same, let's just say the same 5 core maps that we've been playing from the old fucking versions as well, like Inferno, Dust 2, etc. If these aspects never change, it'll be great for people who are hardcore, but I think the most casual fans, I don't think it fits the requirement enough, and I think they want more turnover. So I think it's certainly possible. It's just right now, literally nobody has any plans to implement anything, including Valve, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just think it would just be better to sort of, I mean, maybe even every TO has like 1 or 2 maps that's their like signature map. But again, it's like players are going to be resistant to that. The CSPPA is going to be resistant to that. The community is going to be resistant to that. It's like just not worth anyone's while or time to do it. Also, making good maps, map development,
it's hard.
It's not fucking easy. And if you hire somebody who actually does know what they're doing, and no map has ever landed with its first iteration and been the version that we got, that I can think of, that we go on to keep and we go on to play. You're gonna have to pay top dollar to bring in somebody like that. They're essentially a games developer after.
By the way, just cause he deserves props for it. It's one of the few good ideas he's ever had. No, there's actually an idea that Moses had, which he had years ago, which is
give him Moses credit and buy the numbers.
Exactly. But it's because this is his magnum opus. This was an idea that initially I even thought was stupid, but the more I thought about it, it's actually a fucking banging idea. Which is basically, his idea was, since he knows that at the moment we're not going to get rid of the core map pool, even if we take a map out, they're just going to rework it and bring it back, and that's just the way it is, that we are resistant to change. His workaround was that what he thinks they should do is just change the existing maps. So what you do is you just alter the bomb sites. So maybe in 6 months, you change it so that the bomb site on Dust 2 doesn't have the platform there. It's like a different thing there, but it's the same map other than that. And the idea would be, because the rest of the map's the same, you keep a lot of the things people like and they won't complain, but then there's something for the pros to have to relearn, like new spots you are sitting and new smoke that were like, it's actually quite a clever compromise. That's why I always bring it up every time I get a chance. It's a pretty legit idea. You don't even have to mock it just because Moses came up with it.
We might call him Professor Sex and mock him, but occasionally that Moses guy, he does come out with a good idea, doesn't he?
It's not bad.
He is smart. He is a literal egghead. Speaking of which, next question. Marcus Kyumpa says, do you have any recommendations on treatment or medicine for hair loss, or should my friend just live in denial and just wear a fedora I'm asking for a friend. Well, listen, Marcus, I'll tell you this. My approach to hair loss is very simple. Like, once it starts happening, you've just got to make the assessment. Can I get away with having a little bit at the back, a little bit at the front going, temples receding? Can I do a sweep over? Can I do this? And then if it looks shit, you just got to be honest with yourself and get it off. And just hope you've got the right kind of skull shape so you don't look like a fucking, a complete throwback. Like, and as long as you do, you're fine. I mean, generally, the rule of thumb is once you start going bald, be a fucking man. Get it bicked and just live like that. That is your life now, right? That's just how it is. You are bald now. Live like that. And just, fucking, it looks good on some people. It doesn't look good on everybody. Not everybody can pull off the bald look. I knew when, like, listen, I knew the diameter at the back of my head, right? Like when it was, it's centimeter, 2 centimeters, it's an inch now, it's, 2 inches. At that point, like, when you have hair everywhere else, but you just literally have a bit where it just won't grow at the back, there's not really any, you can sweep it back all you want. You look like a cunt. There's just no getting away from it. You just look like a fucking mug. So you just get it off. You just take it off. And that's all there is to it. So no medicine, no fucking Rogaine. There's some stuff out there that probably does work, You have to take fucking estrogen as well, like stop. Yeah, you have to take estrogen to stop the spread of balding, because testosterone encourages male pattern baldness. So that's why all the people who joke about bald soy boys, they've actually got it inverted. But so with a lot of hair treatment, you get a fucking, even with the plugs, right? If you go and get the plugs, if you get a hair transplant, they give you fucking estrogen pills to take. It's all right, mate. I'll not cry at fucking soap operas, and I'll keep my raging testosterone. So yeah, just tell your mate, get that fucking fedora off. He sounds like a fucking loser anyway. And just get your head shaved. I don't know if you have any thoughts about baldness, though. It's obviously not going to happen to you.
Not a problem for me, is it?
Yeah, brilliant. You win again. You win again. Yeah, no problem.
And I have no sympathy for anyone who has it, because that's just obvious I am.
Fuck them. Yeah, fuck them. It's just
you have to realise, I'll tell you a little story just because people might appreciate this, just as a quick parting gift. I am the sort of cunt who, when I used to take psychedelics, used to always be having a banging time. So I used to literally think, everyone was having those bad trips, probably fucking pussies, aren't they? And the only moment I realised that wasn't the case, Richard, was when I got hit by the mother of all ones. And there was a moment within it where I became lucid and went, shit, so that's what these bad trips are like. Just being wrecked for like 8 hours. But it wasn't until that I even pondered the thought maybe everyone else wasn't just a cunt.
I've never had a real bad one. I've never had a real bad one, but I've been there when people have, man. And yeah,
I mean, I'm not ridiculous, mate. I wasn't trying to kill myself or jump out a window or anything. I was just lying there going, "This is really existentially bad."
Oh no,
that wasn't that bad,
The worst trips anyway. The fucking hellish, like super long. They feel super long because your time dilated, and you fucking introspective nightmares. Ghosts from the past, things you did, the regrets, existential crisis.
I also didn't know what you're saying now, which is you also just have to be able to process that. It's like, it's not really like the sense that you can't just avoid shit like that. It just happens sometimes, doesn't it? No, I just mean the shit where the fucking demon's like, and I will control all the world and just trying to, yeah, of course you will. Fuck shit, why not? Go ahead. Yeah. So
I've only ever had hellish visions one time. I can't remember what the fuck I was on. I think I took like some mix of like fucking mushrooms, ketamine, and LSD. I was like, and
then you just kept watching the Astralis group presser over and over again on loop, and it ended in a hell dimension.
No, it was just all the walls were just like fucking. They were just made of human skin, like Hellraiser or something. So it was like, but in my brain, I was like, yeah, obviously that's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Obviously that's not. You're not really in hell, Richard. But I might be. No, but you're not though. You're fine. Like, no, but I might be. No, Richard.
That's why when people
just an internal dialogue
try to do that, people have an excuse for everything in the world where they're like, oh, but I was having a whole. It's like, where was the part of you? Like you're saying there. There's always that part in me, Richard. No matter what's happening, that goes. I mean, I've even told the joke before that I one time had a mad psychedelic experience. And when I was thinking some super profound shit about the fucking life itself, literally that part of my brain that does all the articles goes, it's a bit like that thing in Counter-Strike, isn't it? Write that down for later. It's like, why am I doing, it's me and God right now. Why am I getting hired? Why am I writing down? God, wait there a second. idea for a Thorin's Thoughts video. Like, that's ridiculous, isn't it? But there's
Idea for
there
a
should always
show.
be that part in the background that keeps you on track.
Backpacking with Chris Eubank.
Remember, you did take all those drugs. And you go, oh, yeah, my mistake. This isn't real.
Yeah, sorry, not real, God. Anyway, you were saying?
Get back to wrecking me.
Last two questions. Watch Doge. Rich, Doran, and Sam, would you guys consider creating a show segment called Petty Grievances with some goofy graphics where you just banter about something petty and stupid that's annoying you? I mean,
he's being silly there, and he's joking about what we do at the intro of the whole fucking show.
No, I think he's being serious.
Isn't that what we do at the first half an hour? We just go, here all the people.
No, what he's saying is actually make it an official segment.
Oh, right, a real thing.
Graphics come up, yeah. Not just because we are just petty cunt. Like an actual.
I can't lie. Listen, it's more workload for Sam, so it's probably unreasonable. But if he could somehow,
mate, just fuck all anyway.
If he could pull up some like straight fire photoshops of stuff that we're talking about, like Astralis, whatever, that would be sick.
Oh, the audience can send them to me, mate. And
there you go.
We can skip that part.
Send them in.
Yeah, do even less work.
Delegate, mate. Delegate. That's how I roll.
But yeah, I'm down, dude. Like, we can always freshen up the podcast. I mean, at the moment, it is just me and you talking for 2.5 hours. It never even used to be this long, did it? It used to be like we used to do it in an hour, then we put it up to 90, and then it's just like me, just bloated and out of control. So, what can you do? But
there's also just so much fuckery in esports. Before we can even get to the matches, we have to just go through that, don't we?
I still think the ultimate show, like Deserto missed a trick not fucking commissioning.
They made a mistake of that, didn't they?
Yeah, they made a big mistake.
One of these days, they'll look back on that and regret it.
No, I think they will. And then the last question, Reykjavik on Steam. Now that, then this is a joke question, so we don't really need to answer it. Now that the Overwatch League has made it so that they are adding RNG to the champions in league games. I don't know if people know about that, but with how they're balancing it, some of the characters will not be available. That's how they're balancing it. So it's going to force people to make off-meta picks and strange picks and stuff like that, because currently they have no fucking clue about how to balance the game. So the best thing to do, just remove elements of the game, and then you don't have to balance it. I can't even believe that's a real thing.
It is almost like some sort of like esports onion article, like Overwatch League decides to randomize hero.
No, I know. Yeah, over
like
a fucking hard drive or something. No, but when I saw the video, right, where Jeff Kaplan says, we've heard your concerns about balance, I'm like, here we go. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove certain here. I was like, I can't believe this. Is this what banter is this? Like, yeah, Overwatch League's a fucking absolute cloud fiesta. But anyway, he then goes on to say, because if we want more RNG in CS:GO, should we bring back dynamic weapon pricing to fuck with pro players and spice up the games? Now, I won't answer that question because it's a silly one. But here's what I will say. I'll definitely say that Henry made a very good point the other day about, like, should we think about maybe changing the format a little bit? Because MR15, is it not too long? Could we not go back to MR12 with this current economy? I think that's a suggestion that could definitely work. For me, I still think, and it's not so much now, but definitely 6 months ago, definitely last year, and definitely for the whole of fucking evolved CSGO, we should have had pistol rounds out by now. I think things like knife rounds. I think things like knife rounds are fucking dumb. I think things like fucking pistol rounds, it's just too much power, and it's not even interesting or engaging. Hey, I know it's changed a lot now because of the way the economy works, and you're seeing more force buys because of that. But in general, I'd still take pistols out. And I think if you do that, you're going to get a team build up a war chest quicker. There's still potential for the upset, but you're going to get shorter games as a result of that because you're going to get more gun rounds. Now, all of this is moot because the fucking Krieg is the fucking absolute bane of the fucking game. It's still too overpowered. It's a way to win duels. It's a way to punish it. Like, mistakes don't get punished anymore because when it was AK and M4s going head to head, may the best man win, and then you got a little bit of RNG in there with first bullet accuracy and stuff. Krieg's just banging your head off. Like, if you don't land that crisp M4 fucking shot onto them, the Krieg's just going to punish you all of the time. So they've really got to fix that. And it's not even fun to watch, I would say, at the moment. I don't think the Krieg meta is very exciting. It's not as bad as it was when you had the AUG and the Krieg popping off at the same time, but it still isn't great. So yeah, I think we need to take a long look at the format. And I'd like to see, if leagues are going to be doing things differently and to fuck with each other and all this, why doesn't someone do like a totally different actual format? Not just in how the tournament plays out with the bracket and the groups, but actually with how the mechanics of the game work. I don't know if you have any suggestions that you would implement in the game.
No, but I would just say I'll echo what you said before. Like, I've after watching a lot of Counter-Strike over my life, I wouldn't have a problem if we just got rid of pistol rounds. Or, as Henry said here, in the modern economy where every round's a buy anyway, except for the occasional hard eco when you just totally money fogged, I also wouldn't mind necessarily going back down to 12 rounds. The whole reason we went from max rounds 12 to 15 is because in 1.6, it's so drastic if you win the pistol. It's so huge if you're on an eco. Like, these rounds are so game changing that you needed to have more rounds to have anything close on actual consistency. With how it is right now, I will say, when you get out of a match like that first EG versus OG game, which is actually the series that inspired Henry to make these two, you do think to yourself, fucking hell, how long did those 3 maps last? Like, I felt like I was every round, it was just because the comment would be, when every round's a gone round, well, every round just has equal value. It becomes not as interesting. So I didn't like the old extremes. I think this is too far the other way. So anything generally that moves us towards a position where it's just slightly better, yeah, I'm willing to give it a go.
Yeah, I think MR12 could work, and I don't mean the old MR12 because new school kids probably don't remember. Old MR12 was 3-minute fucking rounds. Like,
that's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah, I've still got PTSD from playing that shit where 2 minutes 30 into a fucking round. I'm just going to have a look. Oh, there's a German in spawn, banging my head off with an AWP, like, because he's a fucking virgin. I can't deal with that, like, and I don't think that's good for pro play, and I think longer rounds would make it way worse. So obviously, like, 12 rounds with the shorter time format would be good. So there you have it, guys. That's the show. We'll be back tomorrow or sometime this week, depending on if Thorin's not exhausted. I'll let you give me the 2-hour notice. If you are going to pull bail tomorrow and not do the show. But we might be back tomorrow at the regular time. We'll wait and see. So all that remains to be said is obviously shout out to our sponsors, .com. Much love to them. There'll be some wicked content going up over on the ACS YouTube channel very soon. Obviously, they do sponsor Fnatic as well. They've been doing all sorts of content if you're a fan of that team, where they, interview them, the crazy questions. There's just loads of stuff up there. Best player they've ever played against and stuff like that. It's really good. So support because they support me and Sam. And of course, on top of that as well, make sure you show some love to our patrons that brought the show back from the dead. Our $100 patron, Jerky's Mini and Alice the Alchemist, Madams, and Reykjavik on Steam. And our $50 patrons, Benekagi Assassin, Butt Pounder 420, Carve, Colin Penny, Flacksmith, J Dubs, Jice, Lipscomb Davis, Madsen, Marcus Kumpar, Mike Feedme, Nikolai Lundgren, PBN, Sard Sawar, Sunmade Raisins, TC Owens, Tobias Bernasconi, and Watch Doge. That was this episode of By the Numbers. We'll see you real soon. And until then, take care of yourselves.